Chapter 990. The man sat down and waved at the waiter. The waiter came over again and said in English, "Sir, what would you like to order?" A man with a callus on his index finger. He's Chinese, but he can speak fluent English. Who is this guy? Charlotte was suspicious. He activated the X-ray ability of his left eye. He looked at the waiter's body. What he saw was a strong physique with disc-like chest muscles, 8 abdominal muscles, and a gunshot wound on the lower abdomen and chest. The waiter also had a tattoo of a Medusa with snake hair on his chest. It was scary to look at. The man said, "Same rules." "Okay, sir, please wait a moment." The waiter went away. For such a person, he was obviously not a waiter in a coffee shop. Xia Lei's gaze then shifted to the white man's body. What he saw was also an extremely strong physique. The man's body was full of wounds. Gunshot wounds, knife wounds, and the number of wounds was shocking. There was also a pistol with a silencer, a recording pen, and the brooch on his suit was actually a pinhole camera. In addition, Charlotte saw a passport. The name on the passport was Sibelius. Charlotte thought to himself, Sibelius chose this place to meet. The waiter is obviously not a waiter. On the surface, they don't seem to know each other, but the real situation is probably not like this. Sibelius looked at Charlotte for a full 10 seconds before he said, "What did you bring this time?" "Not a small gain." Charlotte patted the briefcase beside him. Sibelius's eyes suddenly showed excitement. "A new material?" Charlotte said. Charlotte is very cautious. Until now, he has not announced the formula and production process of the new material X Mystic Gold. He seems to have also developed a new type of drone, but he has not announced it either. Now, even the director of the Academy of Science, Fan Yiming, does not know the secret of the X Mystic Gold and the drone. How could I obtain such an important thing? Then what did you bring? Charlotte said, the blueprint of the Thunder Dragon AI machine tool. Lei Long Intelligent Machine Tool, first or second generation? First generation. Charlotte said, "It's not easy to get the second generation, but as long as I have enough time, I can get the blueprint of the second generation of the Thunder Dragon Intelligent Machine Tool. If one wanted to fish, one had to use bait." Lei Long's Smart Machine Tool Generation 1 had already settled in Germany and France. The Germans and French regarded it as a treasure and would not easily share it. However, the Americans would definitely have a way to get it. Rather than letting the Americans obtain the Thunder Dragon Smart Machine Tool through German and French channels, it would be better to let Eugene Lee give it away. What's more, without the core components that he hand-manufactured, even if the Americans made the exact same Lei Long Smart Machine Tool, they wouldn't be able to reach the same level. A smile suddenly appeared on Sibelius's face. The Germans and the French each have a Thunder Dragon Intelligent Machine Tool, but they aren't willing to share it with us. You actually got it. You might get the Medal of Honor. Give it to me. Charlotte sneered. Why? The smile on Sibelius's face suddenly froze. It's not safe for you to hold it. What do you want? Charlotte said indifferently. This is something I risked my life to get. Do you want me to give it to you just like that? The Sibelius in front of him was just a contact. To put it bluntly, he was just an errand boy. In terms of authority, Eugene Lee had a higher authority than him. Charlotte's current identity was Eugene Lee. He didn't need to be polite to this Sibelius. Do you want to go to the intelligence station to see the station chief? Sibelius said. He's barely qualified. Charlotte said. You sure talk big. Don't make a mistake, my friend. Sibelius's tone carried a hint of threat. Charlotte just looked at him. Sibelius shrugged. Okay, you can see the station chief. But you have to tell me, when can you get the formula and production process for Mystic Gold X? That's China's top secret. Do you think you can get it just because you want it? I already have a good plan, but I need time and resources. What kind of resources do you need? I won't talk to you, Charlotte said. The corner of Sibelius's mouth slightly twitched. It was a reaction of endurance. What about the Rema Group's drone? You're wasting time, Charlotte said. Hee hee. Sibelius sneered. I'll find out sooner or later. So tell me some personal information about Charlotte. That should be fine, right? Charlotte nodded. What do you want to know? What was he doing last night? Charlotte said. Yesterday, he and Liang Xiao held a traditional wedding. According to Chinese tradition, he and Liang Xiao lived in their new house last night, and had their wedding night. But he didn't invite anyone to the wedding. The identity of Liang Xiao's wife is not public. I didn't get into Peace Residence, so I don't know much about the situation inside. Did the China Special Forces stationed in Rema Group take any action last night? Xiao Lei shook his head. There's no movement. Are you sure? The white man looked straight at Charlotte. I'm sure. If routine patrols count as an action, then pretend I didn't say anything. Charlotte said, I know what you guys want to do, but I warn you, don't ruin my plan. Compared to Mystic Gold X and Rema Group's new drone, your assassination of Charlotte is not even worth mentioning. You're wrong. Killing Charlotte is the most important thing. Without Charlotte, there will be no Mystic Gold X, and there will be no more advanced weapons. He is a threat to the strategic interests of the United States. He must die. Sibelius's eyes were frightening. Charlotte spread his hands. I don't plan on convincing you. You have your mission, and I have mine. At this time, the waiter brought a cup of coffee and a few cookies. Sir, please enjoy, the waiter said. Sibelius said, I want to take a look at your kitchen. Sure, I'll talk to our manager. The waiter said and then left. The inexplicable conversation between Sibelius and the waiter made Charlotte understand one thing. The CIB's China Intelligence Station was here. No wonder the waiter was so strong, even with a gunshot wound. But there were also normal waiters here, and they occupied the majority. But what was certain was that they didn't know where they were working. Their identity as Chinese and the household registration information that could be easily checked, all of these became the cover of this intelligence station. Originally, Charlotte was a little worried that he would expose himself because he didn't know if Eugene Lee had come to the intelligence station, but now he didn't have such concerns. He also believed that Sibelius wouldn't ask him such a question because it wasn't a question at all. Sibelius didn't see through his disguise and thought he was Eugene Lee. In this case, he obviously wouldn't ask a question that wasn't a question. Sibelius picked up a cookie and put it in his mouth. He got up and said, Come with me. Charlotte picked up his briefcase and followed Sibelius into the back kitchen. The two passed through the back kitchen and entered a passage. At the end of the passage was a manager's office, and the two walked in. The waiter was already in the office. When he saw Charlotte and Sibelius come in, he closed the door, walked to a bookshelf, and pulled out a Bible. The waiter didn't pull out the Bible from the bookshelf, but the bookshelf moved to the side, revealing a wall. When the bookshelf stopped moving, the wall suddenly opened up to a passage leading underground. Sibelius walked in. Charlotte followed him in. When he went in, the waiter moved the Bible again, and the metal door disguised as a wall closed again. There were lights in the passage, and it didn't become dark because the metal door was closed. Charlotte's gaze had already reached the space behind the end of the passage. There was another door at the end of the passage, which looked more solid and advanced. The silver metal door had a scanner that scanned pupils and palms. The two came to the second metal door. Sibelius stepped aside. Although he didn't say anything, Charlotte knew what to do. He moved his left eye to the location where the pupil would be scanned and his left hand to the location where the fingerprint would be scanned. The scanner started, and 3 seconds later, there was a soft sound. The metal door opened. Behind the metal door was an office space, but only one person was inside. It was a man with yellow skin and black eyes, also around 50 years old. He was thin, and his eyes were sharp. If he walked on the street outside, people who saw him would think he was a person working for the government. Charlotte's gaze quickly passed through the thin Chinese man's clothes. He saw his wallet, and inside it, he saw a Chinese ID card. Yang Shan, that was the name of the thin Chinese man. This ID card couldn't be fake, but Yang Shan was definitely not his only identity. He also had the identity of an American. Mr. Lee, you shouldn't be here, the thin Chinese man said. Mr. Yang, I naturally have my reasons for coming here, Charlotte said. Without waiting for Yang Shan's invitation, he sat on a chair across from Yang Shan. I know, Yang Shan said. You can give it to me and leave. Charlotte frowned. It's the heart of Rema Group, the Lei Long smart machine tool. I have to personally give it to Mr. Williams. Williams, the head of the CIB. Yang Shan's face suddenly became cold. Your request is too much, Charlotte said indifferently. I work with my life on the line. No matter what I ask, it won't be too much, especially for you. Eugene Lee looked gentle, but he was a very ruthless person. In the past month, Charlotte had already figured out Eugene Lee's personality. His current reaction was also the reaction that the real Eugene Lee should have. In fact, he had already passed the retina and fingerprint scan. Whether it was Yangshan or Sibelius, they wouldn't suspect his identity. But even so, he still had to be careful and didn't dare to have the slightest bit of carelessness. No need to be so troublesome. Tell me, what do you want? Yangshan said. Charlotte said indifferently, You can't give me what I want. In addition, there are some things that I have to talk to Mr. Williams about, and you can't make the decision. Yangshan and Sibelius looked at each other with anger and suspicion in their eyes. Charlotte said, I don't have much time. I have to rush back to Rema Group. Set up a safe passage. I want to talk to Mr. Williams. If you delay me, you can't bear the consequences. Okay. Yangshan nodded. Chapter 991. A few minutes later, an image appeared on the computer monitor on the desk. It was Williams's office and Williams himself. Charlotte sat on Yangshan's chair. He nodded to Williams on the monitor and said respectfully, Hello, Mr. Williams. Williams just nodded faintly. Did you really get the blueprint of the Thunder Dragon Intelligent Machine tool? Charlotte said, It's in my hands. Give it to me. I want $1 million as a bonus, Charlotte said. Williams smiled. No problem. I will transfer $1 million into your account if you manage to get your hands on the real blueprint of the Thunder Dragon Smart Machine tool. Of course it's real. I can send it to you now. Charlotte opened his company bag, took out a USB, and plugged it into Yangshan's mainframe. Yangshan and Sibelius looked at each other again. They seemed to understand why Charlotte wanted to personally hand it over to Williams. $1 million was enough for them to be jealous and envious. But they didn't know that the money Charlotte spent on the fireworks last night was almost this amount. The transmission process only took 10 seconds, but Charlotte didn't immediately unplug the USB. Instead, he said, Mr. Williams, I know that the CIB has an assassination plan against Charlotte, but I want to postpone this operation. Why? I'm sure that he has already made the formula for the Mystic Gold, as well as the supporting production process. I have a very good plan, and I'm very confident that I can get the correct formula and production process. I'm also confident that I can get the blueprint of Rema Group's drone. I want to hear your plan. Williams looked interested. Charlotte reached out and removed the USB from the mainframe. Then he said, I can only tell you about my plan. Yangshan frowned. Mr. Lee, you've gotten what you wanted. $1 million is enough for you to spend for the rest of your life. Are you still not satisfied? Charlotte just looked back at him and didn't say anything. Williams said, There's nothing wrong with Yangshan. He's the head of the CIA's intelligence station in the capital of China. He has the authority to know. In addition, if you need support for your operation, he will also be the person to support you. Sibelius doesn't have a problem either. Go ahead. Williams didn't mention Sibelius's identity and position, but from Williams's tone, Charlotte could guess that Sibelius's identity and position in the CIA was no lower than Yangshan's. Charlotte then said, Mr. Williams, I have to remind you that what I'm about to tell you is about the AE capsule. Are you sure that they have the authority to know? If you're sure that they do, I don't mind telling you. Yang, Sibelius, you guys go out for a while. Williams changed his mind. Yangshan and Sibelius looked at Charlotte coldly and then left. The secret of the AE capsule was something that the United States dreamed of getting their hands on. It was actually a strategic interest of the United States, just that it was more focused on the future. When a metal door closed, William Sim couldn't wait and said, Tell me, what information did you get? Charlotte said, Whether it's the Mystic Gold X or the AE capsule, they don't belong to this world. Then where do they come from? Extraterrestrial civilization. Charlotte looked above his head. Charlotte has been researching the AE capsule and a metal called ancient alloy for the past few years. This result was also given by him. There's another metal. William Sim was surprised. Is it more perfect than the Mystic Gold X? Charlotte shook his head. I've only seen it once. I don't know its structure and performance. but I'm sure that it's definitely more perfect than the Mystic Gold X. That metal was discovered by an archaeologist in China called Peaceful, and it fell into Charlotte's hands. Once, I accidentally eavesdropped on a secret conversation between Charlotte and Peaceful. He said that the metal could be the fragments of an extraterrestrial weapon. He also had some clues in his hands. If those fragments can be pieced together, the Rema Group will be able to create a powerful weapon that can conquer the world. Is what you're saying true? It sounds like a science fiction story to me, William Sims said. I don't know if it's true, but if it's true, the United States will have nothing to do with this world. China will become the new ruler of the world, Charlotte said. Of course, there was no extraterrestrial civilization or extraterrestrial weapon. Everything he said now was 90% false and 10% true. He said so much, but there was only one goal, and that was to fool Williams. It was not easy to fool the director of the United States Intelligence Division. He had to have something real that could attract Williams. So, the AE capsule could also belong to the extraterrestrial civilization, right? Williams' eyes were full of surprise and excitement. It was very complicated. Charlotte nodded. That's my guess. I have gained Charlotte's trust. In addition to letting me participate in the research of the Mystic Gold X, he is also preparing to let me participate in the research of the ancient alloy. And you have to kill Charlotte at this time. If he dies, I won't be able to get more valuable information. This is the plan you want to tell me? Yes. Williams shook his head. Killing Charlotte is an order from the highest level. The White House and the Pentagon have reached an agreement on this matter. No one can change it. Charlotte suddenly remembered what Gu Qin told him before he died. Gu Qin said that the United States wanted to kill him more than anything else. In this matter, she did not lie to him. What a pity. We may have the technology to change the world, Charlotte said hypocritically. Williams thought for a moment. You do what you need to do. Don't worry about the FA organization and the Hattori family's actions. We spent so much effort to arrange for you to join the Rema Group. You must not be exposed at this time. Even if Charlotte dies, the Rema Group will still exist. The Mystic Gold X and the drone project will continue. You will have a chance. As for the ancient alloy you mentioned, you will also have a chance to get it. At that time, the amount of bonus you will receive will be $50 million US. Charlotte said excitedly, Mr. Williams, I know what to do. Williams said, go back to the Rema Group. Don't go to that intelligence station again. It is very important to us. You will increase the risk of it being exposed. I know, Charlotte said. Before I leave here, I have a request. What request? I want to know the AE Research Center's research data on the AE capsule. All of it, Charlotte said. What do you want that thing for? Charlotte lowered his voice. Mr. Williams, the ancient alloy and the AE capsule came from the same place. They have a lot in common. I have gained Charlotte's trust. I will be exposed to the ancient alloy and that drug. I have to know something about the AE capsule. This will help me gain more trust from Charlotte. This is the only way I can provide you with more valuable information. Charlotte still has that drug. Yes, but I don't know if he copied it, Charlotte said. Williams was silent, but Charlotte knew that he was tempted. He threw a lot of tempting secrets to Williams. No matter which one it was, the CIA wanted it. Okay, I will send it to you. After you get it, leave that place. I don't want you to appear there again. Williams made a decision. Charlotte nodded and plugged the USB into the computer. The USB not only contained the blueprints of the Lei Long smart machine tool, but it also contained a very special thing. That was Xiaoqian, the virus he wrote himself. The first Xiaoqian was destroyed in the bombing of the FA organization headquarters. He rewrote the virus and improved the imperfections. The current Xiaoqian was more perfect and more powerful. Just now, when Charlotte plugged the USB into Yangshan's computer, Xiaoqian settled in the computer. Now, Williams transferred the AE Research Center's research data on the AE capsule to the USB. Xiaoqian also entered the CIA headquarters through the network. In the future, as long as Charlotte woke up Xiaoqian, he could not only get the intelligence from the intelligence station, but he could also get the highest level of intelligence from the CIA. The transmission process ended after 5 minutes. Charlotte got up and left Yangshan's office with his briefcase. Outside the door, Yangshan and Sibelius looked at Charlotte coldly. Xiaolei smiled. I wish you success in your operation. A sneer appeared at the corner of Cyberry's mouth. Thank you. He then changed the topic and said, I forgot to ask you something just now. What? Charlotte asked. Sibelius said, Where is Charlotte's wedding? Charlotte said, Charlotte and Fan's wedding will be held at the Hilton Hotel. I was invited, but due to your actions, I don't plan on going. You won't make a move there, will you? Let me remind you, there will be a lot of big shots from the military, and everything within a 10-mile radius will be under surveillance. Not to mention that the people from the FA organization and the Hattori family will go in with guns. Even if they bring knives, they won't be able to get close to the hotel. Yangshan said, You don't have to worry about it. It's enough for you to tell us this. Goodbye, Mr. Li. Charlotte nodded slightly and left. His wedding with Fan was indeed going to be held at the Hilton Hotel, but he hadn't announced it to the public yet. In addition to his 4 wives, Yangshan and Sibelius were the first to know the location of the wedding. He told Sibelius and Yangshan the location, and the FA organization and the Abdomen family would soon get the information. He said that everything within a 10-mile radius would be under surveillance. So the people from the FA organization and the Hattori family would set the location of the attack on the way back from the tour. Walking out of Leaves Cafe, Charlotte looked back at the sign. A sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. This was the secret intelligence station of the CIA, but it wouldn't exist for long. He walked to Eugene Lee's Buick Enclave. The night wind blew his cheeks, but because of the human skin mask, he couldn't feel the existence of the wind. As he approached the car window, he saw the reflection of the Leaves Cafe behind him through the window. In front of a floor-to-ceiling window, Sibelius was looking at him. Charlotte said softly to Sibelius's reflection, Bang. Chapter 992. It was the first day of the Lunar New Year. This day was very important to every Chinese. In the Chinese world, one's luck on one day would determine one's luck for the next year. Therefore, there were many taboos for the Chinese on this day, such as not arguing, not losing money in cards, and so on. For Charlotte, his luck on the first day of the Lunar New Year was very good. It was hard to say whether his luck for the entire year would be good, but the reward on this day was definitely not small. In the study of ping and residence, Charlotte opened the top secret file on the USB. There was a text file and a video file in the file that William Sim had sent him. Could it be a video recording of the Americans getting the AE capsule? Charlotte was curious and opened the video file. In the video, there was a small valley surrounded by mountains. There were no plants on the brown mountains, and it looked very barren. The videographer was standing on a hillside, and after filming the valley, he deliberately moved the camera in another direction. Then the Holy Cross Mountain appeared in the video, and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre at the foot of the mountain, but they were very far away. Without a doubt, this place was Jerusalem, and it was in the suburbs. The videographer then moved the camera to the valley and then walked down. The camera was a little shaky, and it seemed that the camera was mounted on his head. He spoke as he walked. Today is Christmas of the millennium, and I'm working in this D*M place. But it's worth it. As an archaeologist, discovering the 9th wonder of the world is the best Christmas gift God has given me. In the video, a woman's voice could be heard saying, George, don't be too happy just yet. The information we received might not be accurate, and it could just be an ordinary tomb. Believe me, Elena, I have a feeling that we'll find something amazing this time. It was George's voice. Really? I hope it's as you say. It was the woman's voice. Oh, right, George. What era do you think this tomb is from? I spoke to Professor Mark in Israel on the phone, and he said that the tomb should be from the Crusades. I'm a fan of the Middle Ages. When I was young, I dreamed of becoming a knight in the Crusades, fighting for the Holy God. Come on, you're not meant to be a knight. Did Professor Mark talk to you about the identity of the tomb owner? Elena asked. No, we just had a simple chat, and then he urged me and you to hurry over. That's why we're here, George said. The two of them talked as they walked, and it took them a full 10 minutes to reach the bottom of the valley. As soon as the two of them walked down the hill, A rock wall that had collapsed for some unknown reason appeared in the video. A cave about 3 meters in diameter and 3 meters in height was revealed amidst the pile of rubble. The two archaeologists walked in. George turned on a flashlight and shone it forward. The inside of the cave was pitch black, and the video feed was filled with cold rocks. Other than that, there was nothing else. The two of them continued to walk forward. After about 20 meters, George shouted, "Professor Mark, we are coming." "I'm George, and I'm Elena." A man's voice came from the darkness. He said in English, "George, Elena, I'm inside. You'll see me in another 20 meters. Hurry up. I can't wait to show you this miracle." "Okay, we'll be right there." George and Elena quickened their pace. The two of them walked forward for a distance. After turning a corner, light appeared in front of them, and the space in the video feed suddenly opened up. It was a triangular natural cave, and it was an equilateral triangle. It gave people the feeling that it was a pyramid built inside the belly of a mountain. Wow, is this the work of nature, or... Because of his excitement, George could no longer speak normally. How could this be the work of nature? A white-haired old man appeared in the camera. Behind him was a group of workers opening a stone coffin. It was a very large stone coffin. It looked like a tank made of stone, and it was very strong. "Professor Mark, you're right. This is definitely the 8th wonder of the world. It looks like a pyramid built in the belly of a mountain. I can't wait to know the identity of the owner of the tomb. Can you tell me?" George walked up. The camera above his head shook slightly, and the video also shook slightly. "Sorry, my dear George, I also want to know the identity of the owner of the tomb. I'm afraid we can only find clues after opening the stone coffin. Before that, I suggest you take a closer look at the top of your head." Mark pretended to be mysterious. George raised his head, and he suddenly froze and stopped moving. Not only him, but even Charlotte, who was in front of the screen, was stunned. The upper part of the equilateral triangle was full of human skulls, one after another. The human skulls were neatly arranged, and for some reason, they were attached to the stone wall. They formed a line of bones that climbed around the triangle. At a glance, the densely packed human skulls were like a huge ceiling, covering the upper 1/3 of the pyramid. "Oh my God, who would do such a thing?" Elena's voice was full of trembling. "Is this a demon's lair?" "God knows," Professor Mark said. "Let's go. I'll take you to see the stone coffin." "Okay." George followed Professor Mark and asked, "Professor Mark, who was the first person to find this place? How'd he find it?" "This was a week ago. There was a slight earthquake here. When you came, you should have seen the situation at the entrance of the cave. Those rocks were moved over to block the entrance of the cave. After the earthquake, those rocks fell, and the entrance of the cave was revealed." Professor Mark said with a smile, "A young man who was hiking found this place and reported it to the police, so we came. We've been working here for a whole week, and it's all because of that damn stone coffin. It's too strong, and we can't use explosives to blow it up. Indeed, we can't use explosives. That will destroy the relics inside," George said. "But you're lucky. You're just in time to open the time," Professor Mark said. "Is it going to open soon?" Elena said excitedly. Professor Mark said, "Yes, otherwise I wouldn't have called you in such a hurry. 5 minutes at most. After 5 minutes, let's witness a miracle together." As they walked and chatted, Professor Mark brought George and Elena to the front of the stone coffin. George stood on the other side of the stone coffin. A blurry pattern appeared in the camera. The position of the pattern was on the surface of the stone coffin. George moved closer and used his hand to clean the dust on it. The pattern became clearer. It was a... Seeing this, Charlotte suddenly realized what was inside the time. Now, he wanted to see the moment when the stone coffin opened more than George. The AE capsule actually entered the world from this place, but it eventually swam into my hands and was eaten by me, creating who I am today. Xia Lei's thoughts were surging, and his inner feelings were extremely complicated. George struggled to identify the letter in the pattern. George, what are you talking about?" Elena moved closer. George suddenly exclaimed, "Professor Mark, did you find it?" This pattern is actually engraved with letters. It's engraved with AE. Hee hee. Professor Mark said with a smile. George, my friend, please don't panic and don't be too excited. This place is full of the two letters you mentioned. I'm too lazy to count them. Why? George's tone was full of surprise. Professor Mark said, my friend, don't ask me why. I don't know either. Let's work hard to solve this mystery later. A few minutes later, a few workers finally opened the stone coffin. A few strong workers worked together to open the lid of the stone coffin. Before the lid of the stone coffin was completely opened, George couldn't wait to move closer to the stone coffin and peek inside. Under the illumination of the light, the space inside the stone coffin could be seen. There were no corpses, no treasures, and no cultural relics. At the bottom of the stone coffin was a fist-sized piece of amber. It was crystal clear, and its color was like the golden sunlight that cut through the darkness at dawn. In the middle of the amber was a pile of shiny substances that looked like mineral powder or crystals, just like the powder in modern pills. How could this be? What's in that piece of amber? George asked in surprise. I've seen a lot of amber, but it's either insects or leaves. How could there be such a strange thing? Elena was also very curious. We'll know after we take it back and study it, Professor Mark said as he reached for the piece of amber. At that moment, a bullet suddenly flew from behind and instantly blew up his head. Brain juice and blood spurted out from the broken head, and his life ended in an instant. Who are you? What are you doing? With a bang, George fell to the ground. The camera was still, always focused on the top of the pyramid. The thousands of heads looked coldly at the tragedy that was happening below. The sound of gunshots, begging for mercy, crying, and screams mixed together and echoed in the space of the pyramid, giving people a creepy feeling. Finally, a person appeared in the video. His back was facing the camera on George's helmet, so his face could not be seen. His back was very burly. He reached out and picked up the amber in the stone coffin. At that moment, Charlotte saw a black tattoo on his arm. It was a king cobra. Boss, there's a camera on that guy's hat. He's recording. Do you want to destroy it? Someone in the video spoke in English. No, keep it. Everything here can't be destroyed except for these bodies. The man with the king cobra tattoo said, when you go out, blow up the entrance of the cave. Kill everyone who knows about this place. Yes. Several people answered. Someone covered the camera with his hand and turned it off. The video ended there. Charlotte was still staring at the screen in a daze. He didn't move for a long time. He finally knew where the AE capsule came from, but he didn't understand how the pyramid in the belly of the mountain was built and how it was built. Also, who was the one who killed George and Professor Mark and took the amber? Chapter 993. The text files in the USB were later research materials from the AE Research Center, which recorded some research information. The AE Research Center conducted research on the mineral substance in the amber, but even with the world's leading scientific and technological strength, they couldn't find anything. After reading the entire text file, Charlotte was surprised to find that the AE Research Center didn't study the substance in the amber in the direction of medicine. The main research direction of the AE Research Center was minerals. They believed that the substance was a mineral, a rare mineral more precious than rare earths. What's going on? Charlotte was surprised. When Dad gave it to me, they had already turned into capsules. Dad let me eat one every month. I ate 11 of them, and only one was left. The problem is, even the AE Research Center didn't study it in the direction they wanted. How did Dad know what it was, and then let me eat it? The main research direction of the AE Research Center was rare minerals. If Dad's knowledge level was the same as the AE Research Center, how could he let his son eat rare minerals? He put the substance into a capsule and told his son to eat it. He also told his son to eat one capsule a month. This showed that at that time, his knowledge level was actually higher than the AE Research Center. The problem was, as an agent of the FA organization, how could his knowledge level be higher and more comprehensive than the AE Research Center, which was supported by the U.S. state? This was a problem that was difficult to understand. After thinking for a while, Charlotte picked up the satellite phone. He wanted to contact his father, Xia Changhe, but he couldn't reach him at all. This seemed to be his father's style. He was elusive, and he would wander his whole life. Would he really wait for him to wash his hands and spend his remaining years in peace? No one knew. Honey, it's so late. Why aren't you resting? Jiang Rui walked into the study. In her hand was a bowl of white fungus and wolfberry soup, and she also put some dates in it. Goji berries and jujubes were good for nourishing the kidneys. These were the two ingredients that the big-bellied woman fed Charlotte the most. Now, Xiao Lei felt nauseous at the sight of wolfberries and dates, but every time they brought them to him, a smile would appear on his face, and he would even say, "How fragrant." "Then drink it. I'll get you another bowl," Jiang Rui said. "Charlotte, I'll feed you." Jiang Rui scooped a spoonful of white fungus, wolfberry, and jujube soup and carefully fed it to Charlotte. Charlotte bit the bullet and drank it. Jiang Rui also sat on his lap and fed him the soup. The study was filled with warmth and sweetness. "Are they all asleep?" Charlotte gently hugged her waist and rubbed her slightly bulging belly, feeling the life inside. "They're all asleep," they said. "I haven't been here for a while, and they want me to accompany you tonight." As soon as she said this, Jiang Rui's face turned red. Charlotte said with a smile, "It's not that troublesome. Isn't it more lively when everyone sleeps together?" "Pa!" Jiang Rui suddenly reached out and grabbed Charlotte's ear. She said fiercely, "I knew you were bad when we were young, and now you're really bad. Be honest. What did you do when you slept with the three of them?" This was Jiang Rui, the childhood sweetheart that Charlotte was familiar with. Jiang Rui. "You already know. Why are you asking?" Charlotte felt a little embarrassed. After all, it was a messy matter. "I can imagine it even if you don't tell me." Jiang Rui pouted. "I don't sleep with them anyway," Charlotte said with a smile. "It's only once in a while. How can we do that often? When you have children in the future, we can't do that anymore. Otherwise, it will affect the child negatively." "What should my child be called, Fan?" Jiang Rui suddenly thought of this question. Charlotte thought for a moment. "Andy, what should I call Yang Xiao? Second mother. What should I call Longbing? Third mother. What should I call you?" "Call me Mommy, idiot." Xiao Lei slapped Jiang Rui's big white ball, making a crisp sound. "I won't do it." Jiang Rui twisted her waist and used the big white ball to crush Charlotte's thigh. "I want to be an Annie. I've known you since I was young. You touched my body when you were a few years old. I'm your first woman." "Charlotte, I don't care. I want to be the children's Annie." Charlotte thought for a moment. "I'll let Fan's child call you Annie." "What should Liang Xiao's child call me?" "Second mother." "What about Longbing's?" "Third mother." "What nonsense is this?" Charlotte looked serious. "Your child will be called Fan's Annie. Fan's child will call you Annie. Xiao's child will be called Longbing's Annie, and Longbing's child will be called Xiao's Annie. In this way, can't they all be aunties?" Jiang Rui rolled her eyes at Charlotte. "You're being so polite. Of course, I'm a head of the family. I have to consider everything." Jiang Rui suddenly twisted the hand that was grabbing Charlotte's ear. "Ouch!" Charlotte cried out in pain while holding Jiang Rui. "Let's go to sleep." Jiang Rui was still nagging. Fan's child calls me auntie, and Xiao's child calls me second mother." "Ouch! Why is our house so messy?" His wife and children were Charlotte's medicine, the medicine that could make him forget his troubles. The second day of the first month, Xia Shui came to the Wanxiang Group's headquarters in the capital. She sent a wedding invitation to Shinta Tianin. At that time, Shinta Tianin was looking at yesterday's closing price of the Wanxiang Group's U.S. stock. After more than a month, the Wanxiang Group finally fell below the issue price, dropping by 15%. She was in a bad mood. When she saw the wedding invitation from Charlotte, her mood suddenly became terrible. She held the wedding invitation and forgot to greet her previous sister-in-law for a while. "Sister-in-law, are you okay?" Xia Shui asked with concern. Shinta Tianin came back to his senses. "No, I'm fine. It's just, although I knew it for a long time, but it still feels very sudden." Xia Shui sighed. "AI, I'm actually most optimistic that you and my brother will be together. You two should grow old together. I still don't believe that you two will divorce. Shinatianin smiled bitterly. That's not your brother's fault. It's my fault. I'm sorry for him. After a pause, she said, You still call me sister-in-law. If Fan Fan hears it, she will be unhappy. Don't let your sister-in-law and sister-in-law have a conflict because of me. I have so many sisters-in-law. Forget it. Let's not talk about them. Our family is quite messy. Xia Shui said, Sister-in-law, you must come when the time comes. Shinta Tianin told Charlotte that she wouldn't go to his and Fan Fan's wedding. But when she saw the wedding invitation from Xia Shui, the decision she made was somewhat shaken. It would be painful to watch the man she loved marry another woman, but she couldn't help but want to see Charlotte. Charlotte was her drug. She knew that there would be no good result if she went on like this, but she still indulged in it and couldn't extricate herself. Well, sister-in-law, I still have to send the wedding invitation. You're busy. I will leave first. Xia Shui said goodbye and left Shinta Tianin's office. Fu Mingmei walked into Shinta Tianin's office and pouted. Hypocrite. She is the same as her brother. Shinta Tianin suddenly frowned. You are not allowed to say that. Fu Mingmei said, Originally, Charlotte divorced you not long ago, and he's going to marry a senior official. Not to mention, he also has 3 other women at the same time. Didn't you see how proud Xia Shui was when she said that she had so many sisters-in-law? I can't stand her proud look. Okay, stop it. Shinta Tianin was angry. I have to say it even if you are unhappy. I don't want to see you so painful anymore. Fu Mingmei continued. I am thinking that before Charlotte and you divorced, he probably had an affair with those women. Why do you have to be so painful when you made a mistake? But he has a romantic life. Shinta Tianin swung her hand over. However, just as her palm was about to land on Fu Mingmei's face, it stopped. If hitting me can make you feel better, then hit me. Fu Mingmei said calmly. Shinta Tianin put down her hand, and her expression was painful. I really don't blame him for divorcing him. He gave me a choice to give up the Wanxiang group to manage Rema Group, but I refused him. He helped me get out of prison. My father also owes him a life. He did so many things for me, but I let him be the scapegoat for me. Before the incident, I even prepared the divorce agreement and signed it. Shouldn't I be punished? Fu Mingmei knew some of the situation, but not all of it. Now that Shinta Tianin said it, her belittling words about Charlotte and her hostility suddenly disappeared. What Shinta Tianin did was equivalent to returning evil for good. She was the one who wanted a divorce, so how could she blame Charlotte? Shinta Tianin sighed. I'm already very satisfied that he can forgive me and is willing to be friends with me. Yes, I am in pain now, but I asked for it. I won't blame anyone. But you can't always be like this. If you continue to be depressed, you'll get sick. Am I, Shinta Tianin, a woman who will collapse so easily? Shinta Tianin said. Fu Mingmei smiled bitterly. I know I can't persuade you, but I advise you not to attend Charlotte and that woman's wedding. No, I have decided. I want to go. Why? Aren't you looking for a slap in the face? There will be a lot of reporters present. You will appear as Charlotte's ex-wife, and the media will make a big deal out of it. Let them write whatever they want. The 4th day of the first month is a very important day for him. I want to see him happy. Shinta Tianin said. Hey, you really should find a man to start a new relationship with. Shinta Tianin said. Well, then find me a man as good as him. Fu Mingmei immediately closed her mouth. Was there a man as good as Charlotte in this world? No, because he was the only one. Go and prepare a gift for me. Shinta Tianin said. What gift you want? Fu Mingmei said. He is richer than you now. He has money and women. He is almost a king. What else can you give him? Shinta Tianin touched the Sacred Heart necklace on his neck. Fu Mingmei said in surprise, You don't want to send it back, do you? It's the only one in the world. Am I stupid? That's the wedding jewelry that Charlotte gave me. How could I send it back and let another woman wear it? Shinta Tianin said again, Forget it. I'd better choose a gift myself. Do. The telephone on the desk suddenly rang. Shinta Tianin picked up the phone. Hello, Shinta Tianin. This is Tang Yuyan. Tang Yuyin's voice came. Are you free? How about we have a cup of coffee? What do you want to talk about? A topic between women, Tang Yuyin said. Shinta Tianyin hesitated. Okay. Chapter 994. On the fourth day of the first lunar month. Capital, Hilton Hotel. The main character had not yet appeared, but the hotel's grand auditorium was already bustling in advance. The guests who came to attend Charlotte and Fanfan's wedding included bigwigs from the military and political circles, billionaires from the business circle, and ordinary young women from the countryside like Zhou Xiaoan. At this wedding, there was no distinction between classes, nor was there a distinction between rich and poor. Some guests talked about Rema Group's tanks and infantry fighting vehicles. Some guests talked about Charlotte's current wealth. Some guests talked about the past when they started a business together with Charlotte. And some guests talked about Charlotte's height and appearance, and compared him with some celebrities. Different identities, different topics. The scene was lively. This kind of occasion was actually a platform to meet friends and expand one's circle. Some people used to look down on Charlotte, but now they were trying to get an invitation to attend Charlotte's wedding, hoping to get to know a few political figures at the wedding or higher-level company bosses. People were like this. When you were poor, even if you lived on the side of the road, your relatives and friends rarely came to visit you. But once you were rich, even if you lived in the deep mountains and forests, your relatives and friends would climb mountains and rivers to visit you. Two women came to the grand auditorium at the same time. One was Liang Xiao, and the other was Shinta Tianyin. Charlotte's wedding invitation indicated that he did not accept gifts, but the two women were holding a beautiful gift box in their hands. As soon as Shinta Tianyin and Liang Xiao appeared, they immediately attracted the attention of the media reporters, and some discussions followed. Isn't that Shinta Tianyin of Wanxiang Group? She's Charlotte's ex-wife. Why would she come to Charlotte's wedding? Yeah, isn't she asking for trouble? It's really a pity for her. Charlotte's assets now exceed hers. She actually divorced such a capable man. It's hard to say when it comes to relationships. Maybe Charlotte can't do it. Hee, are you joking? I heard that Charlotte has quite a few women by his side, and they're all staying at Peace Residence. A normal man couldn't even deal with one, let alone a few. He could deal with a few, but you actually said that he couldn't do that? What a joke. Do you think it will be awkward if Charlotte's current wife meets Shinta Tianyin? It must be very embarrassing, but don't talk about Charlotte's current wife, Shinta Tianyin. I heard that Charlotte's current wife is a senior official, and her position is frighteningly high. Watch your mouth. Don't say it. Don't say it. Amidst the chaos of discussion, the reporters rushed to Shinta Tianyin. Miss Tianyin, can we interview you? Chairman Shintu, as Charlotte's ex-wife, you're here to attend Charlotte's wedding. Do you have anything to say? Miss Tianyin. The reporters were all talking at once, and Shinta Tianyin suddenly frowned. Her divorce with Charlotte was like a scar on her, and this scar had not healed until now. These reporters had exposed her scars in front of so many people, and the curious and even gloating eyes around her had undoubtedly sprinkled a handful of salt into her wounds. What do you want? We'll let you in. Tang Yuyin's face was cold. We were invited by Charlotte's sister. Is there a problem? A reporter said. Tang Yuyin waved her hand, and several agents in charge of security came over. Tang Yuyin said lightly, ask them all to leave. Who are you? Why? You can't do this. We have an invitation letter. The agents in charge of security ignored the reporter's explanation and directly asked them to leave. Shinta Tianyin said, thank you. Tang Yuyin said, don't mention it. We are all injured women. But Xia Shui will be unhappy if you do this. She's responsible for the wedding of Charlotte and Fan Fan, but you drove away all the reporters she invited. Shinta Tianyin looked a little worried. Tang Yuyin said, in the beginning, Fan Fan took Charlotte away from me in front of so many people. I didn't say anything. What can Fan Fan and her sister-in-law say? Shinta Tianyin wanted to say something, but stopped on second thought. Tang Yuyin said, in fact, there's only one woman who can really make decisions in Charlotte's family, and that is Liang Xiao. Why do you say that? Liang Xiao is in charge of Rema Group. Isn't it obvious? Tang Yuyin said, I know Liang Xiao better than you do. She is a former senior intelligence officer of the CIB. She is scheming and has means. If her identity hadn't been exposed, I'm afraid your marriage with Charlotte would not have existed. That fan, I know what you want to ask. Tang Yuyin said. Her position is higher than mine, and she has more power than me. But after all, she came from an academic class. If it wasn't for Charlotte's help, she would never be able to sit in that position. She is quiet and doesn't like to fight. She could be with Charlotte. That's because Charlotte wants to get rid of me, but it turned out to be real. So what about Longbing? Her? Ha! Tang Yuyin chuckled. She's not a scheming woman. She's never jealous of a man. Whether it was when you were with Charlotte or now, she will not be a threat to anyone. Let me tell you a secret. Before you and Charlotte divorced, Charlotte and Longbing had that kind of relationship, but you didn't know it. Did she threaten you? No. Shinta Tianyin felt a little sad in her heart. After she and Charlotte got married, she even minded shaking hands with men, but Charlotte and Longbing had that kind of relationship. Although this kind of thing had passed, when it came from Tang Yuyin's mouth, she still felt very sour and bitter in her heart. So what about Jiang Rui? Shinta Tianyin didn't want to think about Charlotte's affair anymore. That woman is very simple. She doesn't have a family background and doesn't have any special abilities, but she grew up with Xia Lei. From kindergarten to high school, they were classmates and neighbors. The two of them are true childhood sweethearts. As far as I know, she liked Charlotte since she was a child, but Charlotte didn't have any feelings for her. Later, they got together for some reason. I know Charlotte. He is a good person, but he won't refuse people, especially women who are good to him. Shinta Tianyin said. I think so too. So Jiang Rui is not a woman who can make decisions in Charlotte's family. She isn't a threat to anyone. She's a very traditional woman, but she's still able to accept Xia Lei having other women by his side. This shows that she can endure. In order to be with Xia Lei, she can endure and accept anything, Tang Yuyin said. What about you? Shinta Tianyin looked at Tang Yuyin. Tang Yuyin smiled. Do you want to go back to Charlotte? Shinta Tianyin was slightly stunned. Her mind also returned to the scene of meeting with Tang Yuyin yesterday. At that time, Tang Yuyin also said the same thing to her, and it was the first sentence. She didn't answer Tang Yuyin's question, but her heart was incomparably longing for it. She was a woman who fell in love with Charlotte because of Charlotte's ability. This was not something to be ashamed of. Some women fell in love with a man because he was good-looking. Being good-looking was a condition. Some women fell in love with a man because he was good-tempered. Being good-tempered was a condition. Some women fell in love with a man because he was good at martial arts. Being good at martial arts was also a condition. Therefore, the nature of Charlotte's personal ability and these conditions were actually the same, just more superior. There was no love without reason in this world. If Charlotte didn't have that kind of ability, and he was just a small worker carrying bricks and welding on a construction site, as the queen of the Wanxiang group, would she fall in love with him? That was simply impossible. She wouldn't even look at him. She wasn't an ordinary woman. She was a woman standing in a magnificent palace. Her love couldn't be the same as a woman selling cold dishes on the street. She also wouldn't be the same as a woman working hard in the workplace who didn't even dare to talk about love in order to win the favor of the boss. She was Shinta Tianyin. She only loved the most outstanding and powerful man in this world. But it was also because of this reason that she fell in love with Charlotte. Now, Charlotte's attraction to her was increasing. She married Charlotte when he was still starting his business. At that time, Charlotte's assets were not even 1/10 of hers. But now, Charlotte had become an unparalleled hero in the eyes of millions of Chinese. His assets had long surpassed hers. Facing such an ex-husband, how could she not want to return his side? In her heart, in her world, there was no man in this world who was worthy of her love. Only Charlotte. He was the only one. You still don't want to answer my question? It was Tang Yuyin's voice. Shinta Tianyin came back to her senses. Well, I want to, but... She smiled bitterly. What's the use of thinking about it? Tang Yuyin moved closer to Shinta Tianyin's ear. As long as you want to, I have a way to let you return to his side. What do you mean? Shinta Tianyin was a smart woman. She already knew Tang Yuyin's intentions. but she didn't want to point it out. All right, I don't believe that after saying so much, you still don't understand my intentions. Shinta Tianyin still didn't say anything. I'm not fooling you because I'm bored. I'm afraid the only person in this world who can fool you is Charlotte, right? I'm not cut out for that. Tang Yin said lightly, think about it. There's a saying that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. We used to be rivals in love, but rivals in love can also become friends. What do you want? Shinta Tianyin said, tell me, and I'll tell you what's in my heart. Tang Yin moved closer to Shinta Tianyin's ear. I want justice. If you understand it as me wanting revenge, that's fine too. Fan Fan and Liang Xiao ruined my marriage with Charlotte. I, Tang Yin, am not a woman who will swallow her teeth after being slapped. Charlotte is yours, and he should be yours. You're not robbing him. You're just taking back the happiness you deserve. Now, can you tell me what's in your heart? Shinta Tianyin was silent for a moment before saying, what should I do? Tang Yin smiled. It's not complicated. Just then, someone suddenly shouted excitedly, the bride and groom are here. Chapter 995. Everyone's eyes shifted to the entrance of the auditorium, and the messy chatter also disappeared. Under the gaze of all the guests, Fan Fan walked in. She was wearing a snow-white wedding dress, and she was very beautiful. She had both the intellectuality and self-restraint of a highly intelligent woman and the gentleness of an ordinary woman. She looked so charming. 3 bridesmaids followed Fan Fan. On the left side were Liang Xiao and Long Bing, and on the right side was Jiang Rui. All 3 women were beautiful and attractive, and their ability to attract attention was no less than that of the bride. The 3 bridesmaids walked the bride to a third of the red carpet, and then stopped to wait. At this moment, Xiao Lei, accompanied by his 3 groomsmen, also walked in. The 3 groomsmen were Ryu Yungnam, Qin Xiang, and Lu Sheng. 3 beautiful men, and a man who looked like Zhang Fei, were also eye-catching on the groom's side. Especially Charlotte. He became the focus of the audience as soon as he appeared. Shinta Tianyin's eyes moved to Charlotte. Her handsome ex-husband, who was standing straight, suddenly made her sad. Some sweet past events uncontrollably emerged in her mind. Those things that should have been sweet and blissful had now become knives, cutting her until she was dripping with blood. Look how happy he is, Tang Yin said. Don't say it. Shinta Tianyin's heart was already in a mess. At this time, Charlotte's eyes also moved to them. In an environment with a lot of people, he was always used to observing everyone quickly. Just by this observation, he soon saw Shinta Tianyin and Tang Yin standing among the guests. For eyes met, without any words, but each other's eyes were like a sad song. Charlotte was very surprised, because Shinta Tianyin once told him that she would accept his wedding invitation, but she would not attend his wedding. However, she did not expect that she would still come, and she was with Tang Yin. Shinta Tianyin smiled faintly at Charlotte. Her smile was full of bitterness. Charlotte gave her a slight nod, and the corner of his mouth also showed a trace of a smile. No matter what she had done, she had been his wife, and he had loved her deeply. A day as husband and wife means 100 days of love. How could he have only been husband and wife with her for a day? He was not a heartless man. He never had been. After greeting Shinta Tianyin, Charlotte shifted his gaze to Tang Yin. In the past, he had a good impression of her. But after what happened to Long Bing in Japan, he had almost no good impression of her. Especially the Tang family. He did not have a good impression of them at all. However, since she was a guest, Charlotte still nodded at Tang Yin. Tang Yin smiled at Charlotte, but just as she raised her hand to ask Charlotte to come over, Charlotte had already turned his head away, no longer looking at her. At that moment, her heart felt as if it had been stabbed by a knife, secretly bleeding. She put her hand down and pretended that nothing had happened. The wedding host appeared on the stage and used emotional words to open the prelude to the wedding. This host was a gold medal host that Charlotte had hired. He wasn't tall and was quite skinny, but his wrists were big. Fan Yiming arrived late. As the bride's parent, he was supposed to accompany Fan Fan into the hall, Then give Fanfan's hand to Charlotte, and then let Charlotte hold Fanfan's hand as they walked up the stage. But he was late, and he even said something that gave Charlotte a headache. Little brat, my granddaughter will be in your care from now on. Fan Yiming moved closer to Charlotte's ear. You little brat, when are you going to announce the formula for the X-Secret Gold? Charlotte was a little speechless. Was he here to attend the wedding? Or was he here to ask for the formula? I don't care. I've already married my granddaughter to you, so we're on the same side, right? Why don't you tell me now? Charlotte, Grandpa, can you stop messing around? Today is my wedding. If you continue to be like this, I really won't bother with you anymore. Fan fiercely stared at Fan Yiming. Only then did Fan Yiming shut his mouth. Now, let's welcome the bride and groom onto the stage. The host's voice was filled with passion and joy. Charlotte held on to Fanfan's hand as they walked down the red carpet towards the stage. The three bridesmaids held onto the hem of the wedding dress, while the three groomsmen walked shoulder to shoulder. Why are the three bridesmaids all pregnant? Someone suddenly asked. Originally, no one was paying attention to the three bridesmaids' bellies, but after some idiot said that, everyone's gaze shifted to the three bridesmaids' bellies. The three bridesmaids were actually wearing very loose bridesmaid outfits, but it was still obvious that they were pregnant. What's going on? What kind of person is Charlotte? Why would he get three pregnant women to be his bridesmaids? Yeah, it's so weird. I've never seen this before. Could this be a custom from some place? Charlotte is from Haizhu. I'm familiar with that place. That place doesn't have this kind of custom. Could it be that there's a story behind this? There's probably a story behind this. Forget it. Don't talk about other people's private matters behind their backs. Yeah, what does it have to do with us? For Charlotte to invite us here, he's already giving us enough face. Some of the discussions about the three bridesmaids came and went quickly and soon subsided. Most of the guests who came here were influential people, the elites of this society. They were different from those Annies on the street. They disdained to talk about other people's private matters. Moreover, this was Charlotte's private matter. However, just when the discussion about the three pregnant bridesmaids had subsided, the guy who revealed the news said, "The bride is also pregnant." So, the discussion started again. Pregnant before marriage. How could they be so careless? I heard that the bride is a senior official. How could the organization allow such a thing like pregnancy before marriage? This is not rare nowadays. Many young people in society only get married after giving birth. Such discussions did not last long, only 2 or 3 minutes before subsiding. Among the guests, Shinta Tianyin glanced at Tang Yuyan. Who was that guy? Did he deliberately come to make trouble? Who? Tang Yuyan looked very surprised. Shinta Tianyin reached out and pointed at the guest not far away, who had revealed 2 pieces of information in a row. It was a middle-aged man who looked like a businessman. He looked ordinary and unfamiliar, and she had never seen this person before. This was also what made her feel strange, because she used to be Charlotte's wife, and she was very clear about the people around Charlotte. But this guy was obviously not one of Charlotte's people. How could he know about Charlotte's privacy? I saw him, but I don't know him. Tang Yuyan withdrew her gaze. Don't worry about it. He was just saying casually, and what he said is the truth. Shinta Tianyin glanced at Tang Yuyan, and her lips moved as if she wanted to say something. But in the end, she did not say anything. Just then, the guy who revealed the news said again, I heard that the 3 bridesmaids are also Charlotte's women, and they are pregnant with Charlotte's children, just like the bride. What he had revealed just now was just a small piece of information, and this was the big news. It can't be true, can it? How could such a thing be true? Charlotte married Fan, and the other 3 women were bridesmaids, and they were all pregnant with his children? Who said that? Is it true? If it's true, it's really messy. Charlotte is our national hero. How could his lifestyle be so messy? It's impossible. No wonder there are 3 pregnant women as bridesmaids. It turns out that they are sisters. Charlotte is really good. He has such a good relationship with his wife. This time, it was very difficult for him to calm down. Some people even began to inquire about the identity of the 3 bridesmaids. Shinta Tianyin's eyes moved to Tang Yuyan again. You really don't know who that guy is? Tang Yuyan said, Tianyin, what do you mean? Don't forget that we are in the same boat. Shinta Tianyin shut his mouth. She was not an ordinary woman. She could tell at a glance that the guy was here to make trouble. In China, how could the person who dared to make trouble at Charlotte's wedding not have any backing? She suspected that the person had something to do with Tang Yuyan, but she had no evidence to prove her guess. And even if she could prove it, what could she do? The discussion became louder and louder. At first, Xiaolei didn't know what was happening below. His mind was on the wedding and the upcoming operation. However, as more and more people discussed it below, and the voices became louder and louder, he had no choice but to know. He quickly glanced at the guests below, trying to find the troublemaker. Long Bing and Liang Xiao also looked at each other. Someone is making trouble. Liang Xiao frowned. She was also observing, but the guy had already shut his mouth. Facing so many guests, she couldn't see who was causing trouble. If I find him, I will tear his mouth apart. Long Bing's eyes were cold. The host was also embarrassed. He didn't expect someone to cause trouble at the wedding, but he was also very adaptable. He laughed and said, "Haha, this is a show. Everyone is surprised, right? Yes, this is the effect of this show." When he attracted the attention of the guests, he changed the topic. "Grandpa of the bride, Mr. Fan Yiming, the president of the Academy of Science. Please come on stage." Fan Yiming was stunned and then replied, "Why should I come on stage?" There was laughter. The host smiled and said, "Mr. Fan, because Mr. Xia's father can't attend this wedding. You are the only parent. You must come on stage to drink the bride's tea. Please come on stage." Fan Yiming then went on stage. Charlotte and Fan Fan bowed to Fan Yiming and then offered tea. "Now let's invite the newlyweds to read your wedding vows," the host said. Charlotte said, "I want her to be my wife. From today onwards, we will have each other and support each other. For better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, we will love and cherish each other. Until death do us part." Fan Fan said, "I want her to be my wife. From today onwards, we will have each other and support each other. For better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, we will love and cherish each other. Until death do us part." The host asked Charlotte, "Are you willing to marry this woman? Love her and be loyal to her, for poorer, in sickness and in disability, until death do us part. Are you willing?" Charlotte said, "I am willing." The host asked Fan Fan, "Are you willing to marry this man? Love him and be loyal to him, for poorer, in sickness and in disability, until death do us part. Are you willing?" Fan Fan's eyes were filled with tears of joy. "I am willing." The host smiled and said, "Okay, please exchange your wedding rings." Charlotte and Fan Fan took out the wedding rings that they had prepared. But before the two of them could exchange their wedding rings, the troublemaker suddenly said loudly, "Mr. Xia, you should exchange rings with the four of them, right? You can't favor one and discriminate against the other. They're all pregnant with your child." This time, Charlotte locked onto that guy. Shinta Tianyin suddenly walked over, waved his hand, and slapped that guy's face. Chapter 996. Slap. There was a crisp sound. Everyone's gazes were focused on Shinta Tianyin and that troublemaker. It was not uncommon for a woman to slap a man. However, the woman who slapped someone was Shinta Tianyin. This was a very rare occurrence. Charlotte was also stunned. He had never seen Shinta Tianyin so angry, and she even slapped someone. The guy who was slapped covered his face and looked at Shinta Tianyin in shock and anger. If he wanted to hit Shinta Tianyin was no match for him at all, but he did not dare to do so. It was for no other reason than the fact that Shinta Tianyin was Xia Lei's ex-wife. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Shinta Tianyin said angrily. "Who instructed you to come here and make trouble?" The guy who was slapped did not say anything. He turned around and left. Shinta Tianyin grabbed the guy's arm and said, "You can't go. Make yourself clear." "Let go of me," the guy who was slapped said fiercely. He looked fierce on the surface, but he was already guilty and afraid. "You can't go if you don't make yourself clear." Shinta Tianyin's aura was also very fierce. Charlotte looked at Shintatianin. He felt that Shintatianin seemed to have changed into a different person today. She walked down from the queen's throne and became an ordinary woman. Longbing walked to Charlotte's side and said, "Hubby, I'll go deal with it." Charlotte shook his head and said, "No, don't go." "Why?" Longbing said, "That guy was obviously instructed by someone to deliberately make trouble." Charlotte said, "Just wait and see. Someone will take care of it." As soon as Charlotte finished speaking, Tang Yuyin walked over and punched the guy's lower abdomen. "Bastard!" Tang Yuyin grabbed the guy's collar. "Who told you to do this? Speak." I'm just telling the truth." The troublemaker argued. "Don't tell me you don't even allow people to speak the truth?" Tang Yuyin waved her hand, and a few agents from 101 innings immediately walked over. Tang Yuyin said, "Take him away and ask him what's going on." A few agents from 101 innings brought the troublemaker away. Tang Yuyin shifted her gaze to Charlotte with a smile on her face. Charlotte shook his head and avoided her gaze. He was well aware of what was going on in this matter. Fan Fan had taken him away from Tang Yuyin. Now that he and Fan Fan were having a wedding, how could Miss Tang not do some damage to disgust Fan Fan? The Tang sect was a quasi-wealthy family. Even the Shun Tu family clan could not compare to it. Having grown up in such an environment, it was normal for Tang Yuyin to have a Missy's temper. She was unruly and willful, not caring about the feelings of others. But why did he have to do that? The wedding continued. Charlotte and Fan Fan exchanged rings. Seeing Charlotte put on the wedding ring for Fan Fan, tears welled up in Shintatianin's eyes. She could not forget the scene of Charlotte putting on the wedding ring for her. At that time, she had never thought that Charlotte would put a wedding ring on another woman in front of her. Tang Yuyin walked to Shintatianin's side and said, "You did very well just now." Shintatianin said, "Did you arrange that person?" Tang Yuyin said, "No. Why would I do such a senseless thing? However, even if it was me, didn't I help you just now? You slapped that fellow and stopped him from causing trouble. Charlotte will be grateful to you." Shintatianin sighed softly and said, "Such gratitude. I don't want it. Whether you want it or not, I can't bear to see that woman's face of happiness. For a woman to be willing to accept her man and 3 other women, I feel disgusted just thinking about it." Tang Yuyin looked at Fan Fan on the stage and did not hide the disgust in her eyes. "Forget it. I don't want to talk about it anymore," Shintatianin said. An intriguing smile appeared on the corner of Tang Yuyin's mouth, but she did not continue to talk about it. At this time, several bodyguards in black suits surrounded a middle-aged man and came in. As soon as he came in, the whole audience was silent. The host also retreated to the side. Charlotte and Fan Fan went up and greeted him warmly. The middle-aged man said with a smile, "Charlotte, Fan Fan, today is your wedding day. I'm busy with work and can't stay for long. I brought you a gift to congratulate you on your wedding." "You're welcome, Chief. It's our greatest honor that you can come," Charlotte said with a smile. A bodyguard in black handed a gift box to the middle-aged man, and the middle-aged man handed the gift box to Charlotte. Charlotte opened it. It was a landscape painting. In the painting, there were mountains, rivers, a rising sun, and a soaring eagle. The painting was inscribed, "The eagle spreads its wings and soars for thousands of miles. Thunder Horse spirit, loyalty to the country." This was praise, but it was also a spur. Thank you, Chief." Charlotte was very happy. This painting might not be worth much, but it was a kind of affirmation for him. "Do a good job. The motherland needs you. You're the hero of our nation." The middle-aged man patted Charlotte on the shoulder, his face full of praise and a smile. Charlotte nodded. "Please rest assured, Chief, I will not let down the expectations of the country and the people." "Good, very good, that's good." The middle-aged man looked very pleased. He shook hands with Charlotte, then shook hands with Fan Fan, and then said with a smile, "Fan Fan, I wish you the best in finding your happiness." Fan Fan smiled very sweetly. "Thank you, Chief, thank you. You have to look after him. If you lose him, I'll hold you responsible," the middle-aged man said. Fan Fan held Charlotte's hand. "He can't run away." You guys continue. I have to catch a plane to Argentina," the middle-aged man said. Take care, Chief, Charlotte said. Chief, have a safe trip, Fan Fan said. The middle-aged man waved his hand, turned around, and left. It was not until he left that the auditorium was filled with voices. I didn't expect that Charlotte's wedding could actually... This kind of glory can't be bought with money. Charlotte is really too important to this country. Yes, he's the hero of our Chinese. There was a lot of discussion. Just now, these people were still talking about Charlotte's affair with the 3 bridesmaids, but now no one was talking about it. Who would want to offend a national hero because of gossip? And there was even a high-ranking official like Fan Fan. Shinta Tianyin walked over to Charlotte and Fan Fan. Tang Yuyin also followed. She and Shinta Tianyin had brought gifts, but only now did they have the chance to give it to Charlotte. Seeing Tang Yuyin and Shinta Tianyin walking over together, Charlotte felt a slight headache. But since they were already here, he couldn't possibly chase them out, could he? He couldn't do that. Fan Fan also frowned slightly and said softly, "Hubby, what are they doing here?" Charlotte said softly, "I think they're here to give us gifts." Fan Fan smirked, "I don't care about their gifts." Charlotte, Shinta Tianyin came to Charlotte and Fan Fan and said with a smile, "Charlotte, Miss Fan, I wish you all the best. This is a small gift. Please accept it." Charlotte took the gift box and said, "Thank you." Then he said, "You could have just come. Why did you bring a gift?" Shinta Tianyin said, "How could I come empty-handed?" She didn't seem to want to talk about the gift, so she changed the subject. "Miss Fan, you're so beautiful today." Fan Fan said, "I'm not Miss Fan anymore. I'm Mrs. Xia. You can also call me Miss Fan." Her words didn't seem to be polite at all. Shinta Tianyin felt sad, but he forced a smile and said, "I was careless. I'm sorry, Mrs. Xia." Fan Fan said, "Feel free to do as you please. There are too many people today. Please forgive me." "You're welcome, Mrs. Xia." Shinta Tianyin's voice was sad. The title Mrs. Xia used to belong to her, but now it belonged to another woman. Tang Yuyin also came to Charlotte and said, "Charlotte, Mrs. Xia, I wish you a happy wedding. This is a small gift. Please accept it." "Thank you." Charlotte also accepted Tang Yuyin's gift box and said, "You can drink whatever you want. I'm leaving now." Fan Fan wanted to give Tang Yuyin a hard time, but Charlotte said he was leaving, so she didn't say anything. Charlotte did the right thing. He didn't have evidence to prove that Tang Yuyin had anything to do with what happened just now, so he couldn't question Tang Yuyin. But if he let Tang Yuyin and Fan Fan stay together, they would definitely cause trouble. Today was their wedding day. He didn't want to cause trouble. Charlotte left with Fan Fan. Shinta Tianyin's eyes were wet. Tang Yuyin said, "Only weak women will cry. You're not that kind of woman in my mind." Shinta Tianyin said quietly, "People change. You've changed too." Tang Yuyin was slightly stunned and didn't say anything. After greeting some important guests, Charlotte left Fan Fan and the 3 pregnant women in the hall and went to a room at the back of the hall alone. The 3 best men, Qin Xiang, Ryu Yungnam, and Lu Sheng, were also in this room. Charlotte looked at the watch on his wrist and said, "Now we can start. Brother Sheng, Qin Xiang, after the banquet, you and Fan Fan will ride in the same car and ensure their safety." Lu Sheng said, "Don't worry. Even if I die, I will protect them." Qin Xiang said, "Don't die. Today is Lei's wedding day. Don't say such unlucky words." Lu Sheng smiled awkwardly and said, "I was wrong. What should I do?" Ryu Yungnam asked. Charlotte said, "You'd better pretend to be me. After I leave, you only need to show your face. Your sister-in-law Xiao and Longbing will cover for you." "Well, I'll take care of it," Ryu Yungnam said. Charlotte said, "Then let's get started." Qin Xiang handed a box to Charlotte, which was the toolbox for Charlotte's makeup. After handing the box to Charlotte, he went to the door and guarded it. Charlotte took out a delicate human skin mask from the toolbox and began to do makeup for Ryu Yungnam. About 15 minutes later, Ryu Yungnam left the room and entered the hall. Charlotte also left. His face was a strange one. He was not wearing a bridegroom's suit, but a very ordinary set of clothes. When walking out of the Hilton Hotel, Charlotte said with his satellite phone in his hand, "Start." Chapter 997. 2 in the afternoon, in the suburbs of the capital. A container truck had a flat tire on the road to Whitestag. A burly driver was changing the tire by the side of the road. He was moving very slowly. The container wasn't filled with goods, but with people. Every single one of them was armed to the teeth. Bulletproof vests, all American-style equipment. They were all elites from the FA. About 200 meters behind the container truck, there were also people hiding in the forest by the side of the road. They were warriors of the Hattori family. In order to move during the day, they changed out of their black suits and put on camouflage suits. Some of them looked like grass, while others looked like trees. Even though they didn't have firearms on them, they could still fight from a distance. That was because they were armed with crossbows that had a firing range comparable to firearms. The poison arrowheads also greatly increased the damage of their ranged attacks. Even if they were shot on the back of the hand, the victim would die in a few seconds. Everyone was waiting for Charlotte to return to Rema Group's floats. If Charlotte's floats entered their ambush range, they would end the battle within 2 minutes. With their powerful firepower, they could easily do that. Further away, on a hill about 300 meters away, Sarita was lying quietly in the grass. She was also wearing a camouflage suit that made her look like a part of the grass. It would be difficult to notice her presence if one didn't get close. In her hands was a modified Barrett sniper rifle with a range of 1,500 meters. Within a range of 300 meters, she could hit a $1 coin. As long as Charlotte's convoy was forced to stop and Charlotte was within her range, she was confident that she could take out Charlotte. There was a picture beside the Barrett sniper rifle. In the picture, Sarita and a woman were hugging each other's shoulders and smiling at the other end of the scene. The woman was tall, and her name was Yamosa. Yamosa, I will avenge you. Just wait a little longer. You'll see him soon. I promise you, Sarita muttered. Suddenly, a faint sound came from behind him. Zilida suddenly flipped over from the bushes and instantly pulled out a desert eagle from its holster, pointing it to the back. An old man appeared from behind a tree and lightly said, "Hold your gun well. Be careful of misfire." This old man was the guardian of the Hattori family, Hattori Hakusai. He was the only one who had this kind of ability. Sarita didn't notice him until he was right next to her. If it was someone else, they would have to cut their own throat before they would realize that there was someone behind them. Zilida kept her gun. "You should be in your position. What are you doing here? Charlotte is not easy to deal with. We need to work together to kill him," said Hattori Hakusai. Zilida said, "Charlotte is indeed difficult to deal with, but it's not as exaggerated as you said. We need to work together to kill him. As long as his convoy stops, I just need to lock onto him and pull the trigger to solve the problem. You're oversimplifying the problem. If Charlotte was easy to deal with, he would have died 10 times over. But he's still alive and well. You didn't participate in the assassination of Charlotte in Tavong, Shi Province. At that time, my young master took the most elite ninjas of our Hattori family, as well as special forces from the U.S. Navy SEALs and CIA agents, a total of hundreds of people. Unfortunately, they died on the snow-capped mountain in Tavong. In the war between India and Pakistan, Charlotte killed my young master. I'm telling you this in the hope that you won't underestimate the enemy," said Hattori Hakusai. "I'm a sniper. You're a ninja. I use a sniper to kill the enemy. You use a sword to kill the enemy. I'm 300 meters away from the battlefield. How can you cooperate with me?" Zilida's mouth showed a hint of disdain. Hattori Hakusai took an ancient-looking bow from his shoulder. He didn't say anything. He took an arrow from the quiver and put it on the bowstring. Then he stepped forward and pulled the bow until it was fully drawn. The veins on the back of his hand bulged, and the foot that was stepping on the grass also sank into the grass. Zilida looked at Hattori Hakusai in surprise. She knew that this bow wasn't simple, and it required a lot of strength to pull it. Even if Tyson at his peak pulled this bow, he probably wouldn't be able to reach Hattori Hakusai's level. Bang! The bowstring was pulled, and the arrow on the bowstring shot out. The arrow drew a parabola in the air and then stuck in the door of the container truck. Zilida then looked through the sniper scope of the Barrett sniper rifle, and she was surprised again. The arrow was completely inserted into the door, leaving only the feather part outside the door. The armed FA organization member who was changing the tire glanced over, and then spread his hands. He seemed to be using this body language to express his dissatisfaction. Zilita withdrew her gaze and looked at Hattori Hakasai. "Why don't you use a gun?" Hattori Hakasai faintly said, "A gun will make a samurai lazy and weak. In addition, the problem that a gun can solve can also be solved with ancient weapons and can be done better." As he said that, he took out 3 arrows from the quiver. They were 3 specially made arrows, and the arrowhead of each arrow was a cone-shaped explosive unit. Moreover, the metal surface was coated with something that looked like a highly toxic liquid. Zilita said, "Well, let's work together, but you should choose another position. Once we are exposed, we will be within the range of the enemy's Gale assault rifle. The effective range of that assault rifle is 1 kilometer, and we are only 300 meters away from the road. Do you understand what I mean?" Hattori Harasai nodded and didn't say anything. Then, he turned around and walked toward the big tree. Zilita watched him walk to the tree, and then gently jumped on the branch that was almost 2 meters high. Hattori Hakasai climbed a few times, and then disappeared into the dense canopy. Zilita's mouth showed a trace of a sneer. "Don't think that I don't know what you are planning. Once I kill Charlotte, you will kill me and my people, right? Blame this operation on the FA organization, and you in the United States will pretend that you don't know. Humph! Anyone who wants to use the FA organization as cannon fodder will not have a good ending." Zilita lay down on the grass again, using the sniper scope of the Barrett sniper rifle to observe the situation. She was also waiting for Charlotte's convoy to appear. The container truck blocking the road had 2 minigang multi-barreled heavy machine guns inside. Once Charlotte's convoy appeared and entered the ambush circle, the door of the container would open. At that time, the 2 machine gunners would wildly fire at the convoy. The commando hiding in the container would kill the target under the cover of the machine gunner's fire, knowing the target that the machine gunner couldn't kill. At that time, Charlotte's only choice was to turn the truck around and retreat, but what awaited him would be the Hattori family samurai ambushing in the woods on the side of the road. Even if Charlotte was lucky enough to escape the 2 rounds of attacks, there were still snipers Zilita and Hattori Hakasai hiding on the hillside waiting for him. This was the joint assassination plan of the Hattori family and the FA organization. Judging from the firepower and personnel, it was obvious that they wanted to kill Charlotte. "The convoy has appeared. 50 miles per hour. A man's voice suddenly came from the communicator. He was a hidden sentry outside the ambush circle. His position was 2 kilometers away from the ambush circle. "Roger," Zilita said. "Have you seen Charlotte?" "Yes, he's in the float in the middle." "What about his woman?" "She's also in that car." The hidden sentry replied. "How many armed men are in his convoy?" Zilita asked. "I didn't see any armed men, and the vehicles are ordinary, not bulletproof," the hidden sentry said. "Very good, keep observing." Zilita then ordered. "All personnel prepare for battle. The target has appeared. Estimated time to enter the ambush circle in 5 minutes." "Roger." There was a response from the communicator. Zilita took a deep breath. Then she picked up the photo of her and Yamosa, kissed it, and put it in her pocket. On the tree, Hattori Hakasai also picked up a communicator. His voice was almost inaudible. "The battle is over. Clear the field." The armed men of the FA organization were the target of the Hattori family samurai, and Zilita was his target. This was also the reason why he came to join forces with Zilita. Once the cunning hare was killed, the hound would be cooked. If Charlotte was dead, why would the people of the FA organization still be alive? 2 minutes later, a convoy slowly drove over. At the front was a Ford Raptor, which was Lu Sheng's car, but the driver was also Lu Sheng. Behind the Ford Raptor was a long line of vehicles, but not all of them were luxury imported sports cars. There were also some domestic cars. Judging from the value of this convoy, it was not the wedding of the president of Rema Group, but an ordinary wedding convoy. Low-key, Charlotte's wedding convoy was really low-key. For some unknown reason, The convoy suddenly stopped when they were about to approach the forest. Then two more domestic Great Wall H9 SUVs stopped side by side on the road. The two SUVs and Lu Sheng's Ford Raptor suddenly became a steel protective wall. On the road, the armed man of the FA organization, who was still changing tires, raised his head and looked nervously at the stopped convoy. Next to him, the door of the container trembled, but did not open. At this time, Lu Sheng walked out of the car, but did not show his body. The same thing happened to the two Great Wall H9 SUVs. Two drivers got out of the car and opened the trunk. The trunk was filled with firearms produced by the Rema Group, XL 2500 Gale assault rifles, and even Hellhound artillery. This is a trap. Hattori Hayakushida looked at the situation on the road with binoculars and shouted, "That guy knows our plan. How is this possible?" Zilida couldn't believe it, nor did she want to believe it. The people on the road can't leave. Let them attack and cover our retreat. Hattori Hayakushida jumped down from the tree. Zilida looked at Hattori Hayakushida with hatred, then gritted her teeth and shouted into the communicator, "Attack." The door of the container opened, and two armed men with minigun multi-barreled heavy machine guns suddenly appeared from the door. However, before they could fire a shot, a scavenger IFE suddenly rushed out of a sugarcane field on the right side of the road. Without a second's pause, the moment it appeared, it sent a shell from the Hellhound artillery to the container. Chapter 998. Boom! Amidst the earth-shattering explosion, the containers on the container truck were suddenly torn apart, and the armed men in the containers were instantly torn apart by the energy shock wave of the explosion. Their bodies were torn apart. They didn't have time to experience the feeling of death before the Grim Reaper took them away. The 20-ton truck was also overturned to the ground. The armed man who was squatting next to the wheel and pretending to change the tire escaped the explosion shock wave, but he couldn't escape the overturned container truck. He was crushed under the car, dead like a piece of pancake, the kind with eggs and bacon. Dang, dang, dang. The machine gun on the scavenger IFE fired wildly, and the target was the forest where the Hattori family warriors were hiding. The dense machine gun shells were like the ancient armored cavalry, surging forward like a tide, sweeping everything in its path. One by one, the trees were smashed or toppled to the ground. The Hattori family warriors hiding at the edge of the forest were like the trees around them. Their bodies were instantly torn apart, thighs, arms, heads, and internal organs flew everywhere. Some warriors who were on the ground in time were lucky enough to escape the scavenger IFE's fire, but Lady Luck still didn't pity them. The people on the road were already attacking them with weapons. Those people were actually the most elite special forces sent by the military. They wore suits and were Charlotte's guests. When they picked up weapons, they were warriors who killed without blinking. For a moment, the Gale assault rifle fired wildly, the Hellhound artillery bombarded, and the XL 2500 sniper rifle killed. The survivors of the Hattori family, who were suppressed by the scavenger IFE, ushered in the last nightmare of their lives. They who were holding cold weapons were shot into a pile of minced meat before they could even fire an arrow at the people on the road. The ambush turned into a slaughter. The battle from beginning to end didn't take more than 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, Zelida and Hattori Baozai had already retreated 100 meters away. 2 minutes ago, the two were confident that they could kill Charlotte. Hattori Baozai even planned to kill Zelida and her men after the operation was over, but now he wanted Zelida to become a suicide squad to stop the pursuers behind him. The relationship between people was so strange. "Damn it," Salida roared as she ran. "What the hell is going on? The intelligence given to us by the CIB is wrong." Hattori Hakusai explained. "Siale already knew about our operation. He used his wedding to lure us into offering our bodies. Then he and Sarita ran in the forest like two wild dogs. As the guardian of the Hattori family and the leader of all the ninjas in the Hattori family, today's events made him lose his honor and face. As for what happened next, he couldn't say it. That night was a chance, but you gave it up. Now is not the time to pursue responsibility. If we want to leave this place alive, we have to work together. Hattori Hayakushi shouted at Zillida. Zillida's lips curled into a sneer. In fact, if it wasn't for this reason, she would have already shot Hattori Hayakushi. Running all the way, the #1 assassin of the FA organization and the guardian of the Hattori family really looked like two stray dogs. Not for anything else, but because this was China and Kyoto was an important place. Once China's military launched a full-scale search, they wouldn't be able to escape. So they had to get out of the most dangerous area before that happened. Chirp, chirp, chirp. A flock of birds suddenly flew up from the woods in front of them. Hattori Hayakushi suddenly stopped, reached out his hand, and pulled out his katana, and, at the same time, he held a shuriken in his hand. The edge of his shuriken was coated with poison, and he held it very carefully. Zillida also stopped in her tracks and stared at the direction where the bird flew up. As the top killer of the FA organization, her vigilance and crisis prediction ability were no weaker than Hattori Hayakushi's. The flock of birds flew away in the blink of an eye, and their cries could no longer be heard. The forest was silent. There was no other sound, not even a trace of wind. In their sight was a withered yellow, and only a few trees were green, but they didn't look the least bit alive. The forest seemed to be dying, first the trees, then everything else. But no one appeared. Hattori Hayakushi and Zillida looked at each other, and then they nodded at the same time. Zillida put the sniper rifle on the ground, then pulled out a pistol and slowly moved forward. Her pistol was the same as the one used by Yamosa, a specially made pistol with a large caliber. It was like a hand cannon. Hattori Hayakushi also moved forward carefully, but his movement was more meticulous than Zillida's. He took a few quick steps, then stopped behind a tree, observed with his eyes and ears, then suddenly jumped out from behind the tree and rushed forward again. His katana was always in his right hand, maintaining a posture that could be used at any time. After all, he was a ninja, and his every move was stamped with the mark of a ninja, and it couldn't be erased. The two quickly approached the place where the birds flew. There was no one there, but on the trunk of a tree, there was a piece of A4 paper. On the paper was written, "I will give you 1 minute to surrender. 1 minute. The countdown has already begun." This was simply trampling on the nature of irony. Hattori Hayakushi waved his hand. The katana in his right hand drew a silver line, and in an instant, it cut through the A4 paper. The A4 paper was cut off from the tree trunk by the katana. The cut was smooth, and what was more frightening was that the katana only cut through the paper. It didn't even touch the bark. In modern society, people who could practice sword skills to this degree, whether they were enemies or friends, were worthy of respect. "Charlotte," Zillida suddenly shouted, "come out." No one answered, and the forest was silent. Zillida's voice echoed in the forest. "Are you a turtle? Come out," Zillida shouted. "Fight like a man." At this moment, Hattori Hayakushi suddenly leaped horizontally. His body had just dodged, and a shuriken was stuck in the trunk of a tree, and a few tenths of a second ago, he was still in the same position. The opponent finally made a move, and it was also a ninja. Hattori Hayakushi couldn't help it. He hid behind a tree and said in Japanese, "Who are you? Why do you work for the Chinese? Shame." As soon as the opponent made a move, he knew he had met a fellow ninja. Tut, tut, tut. Gunshots suddenly rang out, and rifle bullets rained down from several directions. The trunk trembled, and sawdust flew everywhere. The sawdust that was torn by the bullets were like knives stabbing into Zillida and Hattori Hayakushi, tearing their clothes and cutting their skin. Bang! Zillida fired in one direction. Under the loud gunshot, an old locust tree was suddenly cut in half by the special bullets. Puff! A bullet suddenly flew from behind Zillida and stabbed into her right wrist that was holding the gun. It was a bullet from a Gale assault rifle, and it destroyed Zillida's wrist bones and wrist nerves. She could no longer hold the special pistol. It slipped from her hand and fell to the ground. Zillida's reaction was very fast. When she was shot, she fell to the ground, and then reached out with her left hand to grab the gun. Puff! The back of her left hand was shot, and the bones of her middle and index fingers were broken. With such a hand, even if she grabbed the gun, she couldn't pull the trigger. A young man appeared from behind a tree. He was none other than the person that the FA organization and the Hattori family wanted to kill, Charlotte. In this forest, Charlotte had returned to his original appearance. He looked very sunny and handsome. The faint smile on his mouth was full of confidence and calmness, very charming. He looked like a backpacker on an outdoor adventure, not a killer with a gun. When Charlotte appeared, Hattori Hayakushi suddenly waved his left hand. The shuriken that was already in his left hand flew towards Charlotte. Ding! From the side, another shuriken flew over, intercepting Hattori Hayakushi's shuriken. The two shurikens collided in the air, and then both stabbed into a tree. A female ninja in a red ninja suit appeared from the side, and she also held a katana in her hand. Zodiac Squad, Akiko Tsukino. After Akiko Tsukino appeared, several people also appeared from 3 other directions. They were Yelena, Urtamu, Alessio, Angyumi-kan, and Sayamu. In addition, there were 4 female knights, Giovanna, Stella, Rosa, and Teresa. This was the first time they participated in an operation with other members of the Zodiac Squad. Except for Liang Xiao, Long Bing, who was going to be the commander of the Zodiac Squad on behalf of Charlotte, and the mysterious snake who didn't participate in the operation, the members of the Zodiac Squad were all gathered. With the addition of Charlotte, not to mention the 2 big fish that escaped the net, even if the armed personnel and ninjas who participated in the ambush didn't die, they could still kill them all. The reason why there were 2 big fishes, Hattori Baijai and Zeta, that escaped the net was actually because Xiaolei had deliberately opened an opening in the net, allowing Hattori Baijai and Zeta to get into the ambush circle in front of them. If these 2 people were killed or arrested by the military, he wouldn't be able to ask some questions. Charlotte walked towards Zilita and Hattori Hakushi. Akiko Tsukino followed closely, her eyes locked on Hattori Hakushi, wary of him making another move. "Who are you?" Hattori Hakushi coldly said. "Why are you working for Charlotte? Don't you know he's an enemy of Japan? I hate you right-wing people. Don't talk about Japan in front of me. My sword only drinks blood for the people I want to serve." Akiko Tsukino said. "Scum!" Hattori Hakushi suddenly waved his sword and rushed towards Akiko Tsukino. Bang, bang, bang. Yelena suddenly fired. 3 bullets in a straight line hit the ground in front of Hattori Hakushi. Hattori Hakushi suddenly stopped. No matter how strong he was, he couldn't be faster than bullets. As long as Yelena was willing, he could make a few holes in his body at any time. "Let me play with him." Akiko Tsukino said, "The guardian of the Hattori family. I want to see how powerful he is." Hattori Hakushi held his sword and stood still. In this situation, he already knew that he had no way to live. Instead of being knocked down like a dog, it was better to pull a scapegoat before dying. What's more, this scapegoat was the scum of the Yamato nation. Akiko Tsukino moved towards Hattori Hakushi, holding the sword in her hand. Her steps were very precise. She could advance to attack, retreat to defend. Charlotte said, "Akiko, can you not play? Shoot him down and take him away." Akiko Tsukino said, "Give me a minute. I only need a minute." They were both masters of cold weapons. It was rare to meet one. Akiko Tsukino wanted to fight with Hattori Hakushi to test her cultivation. Charlotte shrugged. "Well, 1 minute. Start the countdown." Hattori Hakushi sneered. 1 minute? I only need 10 seconds to kill you." When his voice fell, he suddenly rushed forward, swinging his sword. Akiko Tsukino waved her sword to block. The 2 suddenly fought together. Charlotte walked towards Zilita. Chapter 999. Zilita got up from the ground. Both of her hands were bleeding. Death was right beside her, but there was no fear in her eyes. She reached into her pocket. Charlotte suddenly stopped. He raised the Gale assault rifle in his hand and pointed the muzzle at Zilita's heart. He warned, Put your hands down. Puffed. Zilita spat blood on the ground. Coward. You're just a cunning mouse. Let me shoot her. This will teach her manners. Yelena said. Charlotte raised his hand to signal Yelena not to do that. Both of Zilita's hands were useless. She was now like a tiger with its claws and teeth pulled out. She looked fierce, but she had no fighting power. Salita took out a photo from her pocket with her left hand that she could barely move. In the photo, she and Yamosa were hugging each other's shoulders and smiling happily. Zilita looked at the photo and smiled. Yamosa, wait for me. I'll be with you soon. She kissed the Yamasa in the photo. There was not the slightest bit of ferocity in her eyes, only a deep affection that could not be dissolved. Charlotte was slightly stunned. So, you're lovers? Then he smiled. Are you the aggressor or the aggressor? With Yamosa's size, you're probably the aggressor. Yamosa didn't seem to hear Charlotte's sarcasm. She was still looking at the photo. The blood that flowed from her hand had soaked the photo. She couldn't see the photo of her and Yamosa, but she still couldn't bear to put it down. Ding ding dang dang. Hattori Hyozai and Akiko Tsukino were locked in a fierce battle. Hattori Hyozai claimed that he could kill Akiko Tsukino in less than 10 seconds. But a minute had passed, and he still couldn't kill Akiko Tsukino. This young female ninja surprised him. Your master is Kenichi Yagyu. In the midst of the battle, Hattori Michizai suddenly realized something. Akiko Tsukino slashed down with her katana. The Hattori family doesn't deserve to call him by his name. Hattori Hyuzu swung his katana to block the attack. After blocking it, he leaned his waist and dragged his katana towards Akiko Tsukino's slender waist. This slash was so powerful that it wanted to cut Akiko Tsukino in half at the waist. Akiko Tsukino leaped backward, dodging Hattori Hakasai's attack. At the same time, he thrust his katana forward. But just as Hattori Michinoku's sword missed, and he was about to block the attack, his movements were a beat too slow. Puchi! Akiko Tsukino's katana plunged into Hattori Hakasai's chest from the front and out from the back. You! Hattori Hakusai spat out a word, but he didn't have the chance to finish his words before he threw himself at Akiko Tsukino. Akiko Tsukino pulled out her katana and dodged sideways. Hattori Hakasai fell to the ground, a needle in the back of his neck. Akiko Tsukino suddenly looked at Urtamu, her eyes fierce. Urtamu shrugged. Boss only gave you 1 minute, and 1 minute has passed. Akiko Tsukino glared at Urtamu, but she was very clear that if it wasn't for Urtamu's help, she wouldn't have been able to stab Hattori Hakasai to death. And if Hattori Hakasai wanted to kill her, it would have been impossible. Charlotte looked over, a little depressed. What's the matter with you two? I said it very clearly. Capture him alive. Why did you kill him? Urtamu and Akiko Tsukino said almost at the same time. It's not my fault. Then it's my fault? Charlotte said. Urtamu, Akiko Tsukino avoided Charlotte's eye roll. It happened just like that. If it wasn't for Urtamu's help to anesthetize Hattori Hakasai, Akiko Tsukino wouldn't have been able to kill Hattori Hakasai. But Urtamu's anesthetic needle wasn't the cause of Hattori Hakasai's death. So both of them said, it's not my fault, which was also based on facts. She can't die again. Charlotte said, his eyes moving to Zeta. The Zodiac squad members walked towards Zeta. The encirclement was shrinking, and Zeta, who was trapped in the encirclement, couldn't escape. Zeta stood motionless in the middle of the encirclement. She looked calm, and there wasn't a trace of fear in her eyes. Just as the Zodiac squad members approached her, a cold smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Although this expression disappeared in the blink of an eye, Charlotte still caught it. There was an inexplicable sense of danger in his heart, and under this sense of danger, his left eye suddenly entered X-ray mode. Zeta's clothes disappeared from his sight in an instant, and he saw her body. The Mexican woman had a pair of big breasts hidden on her body, and there was also a bomb vest. There was a timer on the bomb vest, and when Charlotte saw it, there was a series of numbers jumping on the screen. 031. At that moment, Xiaolei understood. When Salida was taking out the photos, her fingers had activated the bomb vest on her body through her clothes. At a glance, Charlotte suddenly shouted, "Get down!" The members of the Zodiac squad were all battle-hardened, and with Charlotte's shout, they suddenly realized what was going on. One by one, they got down on the ground, and without waiting for Charlotte to remind them again, their bodies had already rolled on the ground, and they hid behind the nearest tree trunk. There were also those who reacted slowly, and that was the Gray family and the Russo family women. They still didn't know what was going on, and they were stunned for a moment, and then they fell to the ground. Zeta roared and rushed towards Charlotte. Bang! The Gale assault rifle in Charlotte's hand sprayed a bullet, and it hit Zeta's forehead. Blood splattered, and there was a bloody hole in Zeta's head. Her brain died, and she lost control of her body and fell to the ground. Charlotte rolled to hide behind a tree. At this time, 3 seconds had passed, and the number on the bomb vest display was 0000. Boom! Amidst the earth-shattering explosion, the violent energy shockwave pushed in all directions, and the trees within a diameter of 5 meters were snapped in half. If it weren't for the trees, the explosion range would probably have expanded to dozens of meters. The smoke dissipated, and the forest was a mess. The trees in the center of the explosion were all over the place, and Zeta's flesh was scattered all over the ground. The farthest part even flew dozens of meters away. Although there were tree trunks to resist the shockwave of the explosion, the sound and vibration were still unbearable, and the human internal organs and brain would inevitably suffer some damage under the violent vibration. Charlotte was the first to wake up, but that was only 5 minutes later. When Xiao Lidu opened his eyes, there were serious double shadows in his vision. Everything he saw was double. He shook his head hard twice to get his vision back to normal. He saw the ninja in red lying on the ground and Erdemo and the others. There was no blood on them, so they should be fine. After all, when the explosion occurred, they had all hidden behind the tree trunks. Finally, his eyes moved to Gregor and the Russo women, and this glance made his heart jump to his throat. The Gregor and Russo women all had obvious blood on their backs. Their clothes were torn, and there were many wooden thorns in their bodies. Giovanna's situation was the worst. The shockwave of the explosion and the wooden thorns had torn her pants, and her, but was completely thrown into the air. There was bright red blood on her tender white flesh, as well as black soil, leaves, and grass. It looked like a mushroom that had just popped out of the soil. There was even a wooden thorn on this mushroom, and that position was almost impossible to look at. Charlotte got up and went to Giovanna's side. He reached out and felt Giovanna's neck. Fortunately, there was still a pulse. He then checked on Stella, Teresa, and Rosa's condition. Fortunately, the other 3 women were only injured and not killed by the explosion. Although Zilida was dead, Xiaolei's back was still chilly when he recalled what had just happened. Just now, if he hadn't caught the trace of a sneer on Salida's face and alerted him, he probably wouldn't have been able to see through a woman who had lost her ability to fight. But if he had been delayed for 3 seconds, he and the members of the Zodiac squad would have been killed by the bomb vest on Salida's body. Knight Masha and Salida were both top assassins of the FA organization. The former was more powerful than the latter, but the latter was definitely more ruthless than the former. Now that he thought about the whole process, who could guarantee that Salida hadn't expected this and deliberately waited for him to catch her? If that was the case, then Salida was not only ruthless, but her resourcefulness was also terrifying. But she couldn't have calculated that Charlotte had the ability to see through things. Charlotte took off his jacket and tied it around Giovanna's waist. His jacket played the role of a skirt, covering Giovanna's butt. At this time, the members of the Zodiac squad all got up. They looked as if they had fallen. The first thing they did was shake their heads, try to wake themselves up. "Are you okay?" Charlotte asked with concern. "We're fine." Akiko Tsukino, who had just gotten up, suddenly vomited and then spat out a mouthful of blood. The same thing happened to the other members of the Zodiac squad. Blood flowed from the corners of their mouths. Their bodies couldn't be compared to Charlotte's. They were already lucky that the explosion didn't kill them. Seeing the condition of the members of the Zodiac squad, Charlotte was even more worried about the women of the Gray and Russo families. He took out a communicator and called for help. Someone is injured. Asked the medical staff to come over immediately. Then he said, Yelena, release the signal flare. Yelena then took out a flare and pulled it. With a bang, a red flare rose into the air. People from afar saw it. You guys check on the three of them. I'll take care of Giovanna. Her condition is the most serious. Charlotte made arrangements. That woman planned this. Akiko Tsukino limped towards Charlotte. She wore this bomb vest. She didn't plan to leave here alive. She was waiting for us to catch her. She knew we would come for her. Killers knew killers best. Akiko Tsukino's identity was a very powerful explanation. Charlotte smiled bitterly. He said to Akiko Tsukino, you cover her. Akiko Tsukino saw the jacket Charlotte tied around Giovanna's waist. As a woman, she understood and stood beside Giovanna, blocking the men's view. Charlotte opened the jacket around Giovanna's waist, revealing her butt. Then he grabbed the wooden thorn and pulled it. Ah! Giovanna moaned, but she didn't open her eyes. Her screams sounded like they were being plunged in, not pulled out. The men looked over. Boss, it's not fair. Monkey from India said, you asked Akiko to block us, but you looked at Knights, but... Charlotte was speechless. These guys were really spoiled. He tried his best not to look at that mature and alluring place while talking to distract himself. Well, Giovanna, your underwear is not bad. You're still so lecherous. Why are you looking at my underwear? Giovanna said with a smile. Charlotte was speechless. She really didn't know that she was missing a crucial piece of fabric. Perhaps it was because there was too much gauze on her body. The gauze and anesthetics made her lose some of her senses. But this was also good. It was less awkward. Sia, happy wedding, Giovanna said. Charlotte's hands were very gentle, and she felt very comfortable. Thank you. Charlotte smiled. You have 4 wives. Can you manage them all? Well, what's the brand of your underwear? Charlotte changed the topic. Of course, it's Victoria's Secret. Didn't you say to let us enjoy life? Of course, I want to wear the best, Giovanna said. Yes, that's right. Life is short. You have to stick to your beliefs and treat yourself better at the same time. Women should treat themselves better, Xiao Lei said, but his eyes moved uncontrollably to that mature and attractive place. It was the first time in Charlotte's life to talk about her crucial piece of fabric with a woman who lacked it. He felt that he would get a needle hole and grow a nose. It's so comfortable. Can you move a little higher? Charlotte moved a little higher and carefully scratched the itch. Well, it's so comfortable. Ah, a little higher. Yes, that's it. Giovanna only knew how to scratch Charlotte's hand. Charlotte didn't dare to move any higher. If he went higher, it would be more than just scratching the itch. Suddenly, there were footsteps outside the door, and then someone knocked on the door. Charlotte hurriedly covered Giovanna with the quilt, then got up and looked in the direction of the door. Please come in. He didn't use his X-ray vision to look at the person outside the door, because it was a hospital and there was no need. The door of the ward opened, and a woman came in. Seeing who came in, Charlotte's head began to hurt slightly. The person who came in was Tang Yuyin, the eldest daughter of the Tang sect in Sichuan. Is she okay? Tang Yuyin asked with concern. Charlotte said, she's a little injured, but she'll be fine. What can I do for you? Now, can't I come to you for nothing? Tang Yuyin said. Charlotte smiled bitterly. Of course you can, but I know what I want to say. Tang Yuyin said, you want to tell me that you're married and have 4 pregnant women, right? Charlotte didn't know what to say, but this was indeed what he wanted to express to Tang Yuyin. You can say what you want, but what I want to do is my business. Tang Yuyin said, I don't think your marriage will last long. If you can divorce Shinda Tianin, you could divorce Fan Fan. I will wait until that day. Why did you do that? Charlotte sighed. I'm not worth your sacrifice. I'm not worth your sacrifice on Tavong Snow Mountain. But why did you do that? Since you don't love me and don't like me, why did you do that to me? You risked your life to save me. My life is yours, and my everything is yours. Do you understand what I mean? Tang Yuyan stared at Charlotte. Her eyes were burning and full of emotion. Charlotte said, I saved you because we were comrades. If it were you, you would do the same for me, right? Tang Yuyan said, that's different. I've never regarded you as my comrade. You provoked me, so you have to be responsible for me. Charlotte smiled bitterly. Sometimes it was really unnecessary to reason with women. What are you talking about? Giovanna looked at them curiously. She couldn't understand this level of Mandarin at all. Charlotte said, don't worry about it. Just lie down and rest. Giovanna nodded her head and did not interrupt. Yin, let me ask you. Charlotte looked straight at Tang Yuyan and said, the person who made trouble in my wedding with Fan Fan was you, right? Tang Yuyan hesitated for a moment and then said, it was me. I admit it. Why? Charlotte thought she wouldn't admit it, but he didn't expect her to admit it so quickly and so straightforwardly. Fan Fan took you away from me. Did she apologize to me? Did she make it up to me? No, nothing at all. She did such an outrageous thing to me. So what's the big deal about me stirring up trouble at her wedding? Tang Yuyan said confidently. Charlotte shook his head and smiled bitterly. The eldest miss was the eldest Mississippi. Tang Yuyan had her own way of dealing with people, and it was difficult for ordinary people to understand and accept. You can hit me and scold me, but she can't, Tang Yuyan said. Charlotte said, okay, I don't want to pursue this matter anymore. If you came to me because of this, we have already talked about it. Go back. I know you have a lot of things to do now. What did I do wrong? Why do you treat me like this? Tang Yuyan's eyes were filled with tears. Yes, what did she do wrong? What's wrong with a woman pursuing her own love? You didn't do anything wrong, but after a pause, Charlotte said, you are a woman of the Tang family, and I don't want to be a part of it. Do you understand what I mean? Of course I understand. I'm not a fool. Tang Yuyan also stared at Charlotte. After a few seconds of silence, she said, do you mean that as long as I leave the Tang sect, you will want me? Charlotte didn't dare to say anything. Are you serious? Yuyan, calm down. I'm very calm. Tang Yuyan said, you wait for me. Charlotte, leaving the Tang sect for a woman like Tang Yuyan was like dying once and then being reborn. If she wanted to do something like this, it would be even more difficult than 1,000 or 10,000 difficulties. What if she did it? What should he do? This was a problem. Just thinking about this problem made Charlotte have a headache. Okay, let's get down to business, Tang Yuyan said. This was the time to talk business. Charlotte smiled bitterly. It's very simple. The people of the FA organization and the Japanese Hattori family joined forces to kill me. The Americans provided them with information, and the Americans were also behind it. But everyone is dead. That's all I can tell you. This was really all he could tell Tang Yuyan. There were some details about the process that he couldn't say. At this time, he should tell Tang Yuyan the information about the CIB's intelligence station in Kyoto. But he knew that once Tang Yuyan got this information, the CIB's intelligence station in Kyoto would be destroyed in less than an hour, which would affect his next action. So, even though he knew it was wrong, he still had to do it. You really have nothing to tell me? Tang Yuyan was obviously not satisfied with such an answer. Charlotte said, yes, that's all I can tell you. Okay, I'm leaving. Tang Yuyan turned and left. Charlotte watched her leave. When she walked to the door, Tang Yuyan suddenly turned back. Charlotte, is there anything else? I hope you get a divorce soon. Tang Yuyan said. Charlotte, after the door of the ward was closed, Giovanna said, Xia, what were you talking about just now? Nothing, just some private things, Charlotte said. Giovanna smiled. I'm also a woman. I can see that she loves you very much. Charlotte smiled bitterly. Take care of your injury. Don't worry about these boring things. Well, okay. Giovanna said, can you help me scratch my itch again? Charlotte. Chapter 1001. At dusk, the Peace residence was decorated with lanterns and banners. The bride and the 3 bridesmaids were chatting and laughing together. They touched each other's tummies and discussed their experiences with pregnancy. The groom was thrown to the side, and no one paid attention to him. Xiao Lei paced back and forth outside the door, looking left and right, looking very restless. At this time, he should be in the bedroom with Fan Fan, but until now, Fan Fan didn't even look at him. Not for any other reason, but because the Charlotte was fake. The real Charlotte was in Eugene Lee's office at the Rema Group's headquarters. The FA organization and the Hattori family's operation failed, and the CIB's Kyoto Intelligence Station would definitely contact him to investigate the reason and make up for their mistake. And what he was waiting for was the messenger pigeon to appear. He had waited for an hour, but the pigeon still hadn't appeared. But he wasn't in a hurry. He didn't even wake up Xiao Qian to steal the intelligence from the CIB's Kyoto Intelligence Station. Waking up Xiao Qian and stealing the intelligence from the CIB could only be done once. After that, Xiao Qian would be discovered and then eliminated. So in a situation where it could only be used once, he had to wake up Xiao Qian at the most critical moment. While waiting, he didn't stay idle. He had begun to browse the equipment suppliers around the world, looking for equipment suitable for the production of mystical gold and drones. Of course, no matter what equipment came to Rema Group, it would be modified. Only the modified equipment could be considered Rema Group's own equipment, and only then could it meet Rema Group's own production standards. Although the state would provide all the equipment that Rema Group needed, there is a certain gap between the domestic equipment and the advanced level of foreign equipment. There would be more areas that needed to be modified, which would increase his workload. Therefore, he was willing to pay a higher price to import some equipment from abroad. After a while, the sky gradually darkened. Did I make a wrong judgment, and the CIB's people won't contact me? Charlotte's confidence was shaken. After sitting for a while, he got up and prepared to leave. At this moment, a pigeon flew in and landed on Eugene Lee's desk. Hidden in the dove's anklet was a piece of paper, visible at a glance. Coo, 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 coo. The pigeon let out a cry, as if urging Charlotte to remove the note from its anklet. Charlotte grabbed it and removed the note. The numbers on the paper were 66, 39, 28, 56. Just like last time, the content of the note was still the code on the page. Charlotte did not need to flip through the French version of Mysterious Island at all. With just a thought, the entire French version of Mysterious Island appeared in his mind. He quickly found the corresponding word for the page code written on the note, and the translated content also appeared in his mind. The content of his translation was, "Tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock, Mushin Great Wall." The pigeon that Charlotte released left Eugene Lee's office. When he returned to Ping and residence, Charlotte had already returned to his original appearance. Before he returned, Ryu Youngnam had already left after receiving the notification. When he walked into the new room, he saw the 4 women in the room, all smiling and chatting happily. "I'm back," Charlotte said. Fan Fan raised her head and glanced at Charlotte. "Masato, don't joke around." Charlotte walked over and slapped her butt. "You can't even recognize your own husband?" A crisp slap sounded. Charlotte's slap was not strong, but the sound was very loud. Fan Fan was stunned for a moment, then suddenly reached out and hugged him. Who told you to let Ryu Youngnam pretend to be you? It's only right for me to be vigilant. Otherwise, what if he eats the soy milk?" Charlotte gave her but another slap, but this time it was lighter. "We should go back. You should also rest," Liang Xiao said, while giving Jiang Rui and Long Bing a look. "Yes, it's getting late. We should also go back to the room to rest." Long Bing and Jiang Rui understood tacitly and followed Liang Xiao out. Charlotte shamelessly said, "Why do we have to leave? Isn't it better to sleep together?" "You wish," Liang Xiao said, then left. Jiang Rui and Long Bing also left. When Liang Xiao and Charlotte held a traditional wedding on New Year's Eve, she was with Charlotte. Now that Fan Fan and Charlotte were holding a wedding, of course, she would not interfere. She was now equivalent to the number 1 housekeeper in Charlotte's family, and she had to coordinate the relationship between several women. Walking out of Charlotte and Fan Fan's new house, Liang Xiao took Long Bing's hand. "Bing, tell me, what kind of wedding do you want?" Long Bing shook her head. "I haven't thought about it. It's fine if we don't have a wedding." "I don't care. It's just a ceremony," Liang Xiao said. How can you do that? Weddings are very important to a woman. Think about it. What kind of wedding do you want? Tell me. I will arrange it for you. Well, let's talk about it when you think about it. Liang Xiao took Jiang Rui's hand again. Rui, what about you? What kind of wedding do you want? Jiang Rui said, I haven't thought about it yet. Let's talk about it when I think about it. Liang Xiao said with a smile, you must have an idea in your heart. You want to go back to Haizhu and have a wedding in front of your parents, right? No problem. When Charlotte is busy, I will ask him to go to Haizhu with you to have a wedding. Jiang Rui smiled. Well, thank you, Xiao. Liang Xiao said, we are a family. Don't be so polite. Suddenly, Fan Fan's voice came from behind. It was a very strange voice. The three women turned around at the same time with strange expressions on their faces. Liang Xiao was stunned for a long time before she said, she really should have her illness treated. Her fighting power is almost zero. Jiang Rui, the next day, in the afternoon, a Buick Enclave was parked in the parking lot of Muxianyu Great Wall Scenic Area in the suburbs of the capital. Charlotte got out of the car, bought the ticket, and entered the scenic area. It was the order of Williams, the head of the CIB, not to meet at the CIB intelligence station in the capital. This time, the situation was so serious, but Eugene Lee was not asked to go to Lee's Cafe, which showed how strong Williams's order was. Charlotte climbed up the Great Wall and observed the surrounding environment as he walked. Because it was the Spring Festival, there were many tourists traveling to the Great Wall. The Great Wall was almost crowded, and his eyes were full of black hair. He couldn't walk fast even if he wanted to. But even in such an environment, he could still control the situation. No matter who it was, as long as they were in his field of vision, their every move couldn't escape his eyes. With the cooperation of his eyes and brain, even if there was a killer hiding in the crowd and wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to attack him, he could find out in advance. The ability of Superbrain was beyond the imagination of ordinary people. It didn't take long for Charlotte to find several guests. Those guys were mixed in the crowd, staring at him intentionally or unintentionally. They had cold weapons on them, including knives and shurikens. People from the Hattori family? Discovering the hidden weapons on the stalkers, Charlotte was confused. The elites of the Hattori family are almost dead. Why are there ninjas here? Could it be? He suddenly thought of a person, my Hattori. He couldn't help but feel excited when he thought of the possibility that my Hattori would appear here. As long as he killed my Hattori, the threat of the Hattori family to him would be reduced by at least half. A young man squeezed at Charlotte's side. Charlotte recognized him immediately. He was the waiter he met at Lee's Cafe. He really was from the CIB. Then Charlotte saw the Watcher again. The Watcher stood on a tower with a telescope in his hand. He pretended to look at the scenery, but it seemed like he was actually observing him. What kind of formation is this? Charlotte was inexplicably nervous. He thought to himself, could it be that they have seen through my identity as Eugene Lee? Do they want to attack me here? That's not possible. Even if they want to attack me, they wouldn't choose this place. There are too many people here. The young man finally squeezed at Charlotte's side. He whispered, Mr. Lee, please follow me. He turned around and walked back. Charlotte followed him. After crossing the tower, there were fewer tourists in front of them, and the two sped up. The ninjas also followed, but they maintained a distance of about 15 meters from the two. They were very good at hiding. Even in a place with few people, it was difficult to notice anything wrong with them. However, their opponent was Charlotte. No matter how good they were at using the environment to hide, they couldn't hide. After walking for another kilometer, there were even fewer tourists. On the Great Wall, there was a sign that said, under repair, visitors stop. Charlotte saw a floor with scaffolding, and there was no one on the tower. He awakened the ability of his left eye, but he didn't rashly look through the stone. Instead, he quickly looked through the wooden part of the floor. It was this time that he saw Yang Shan and his contact, Sibelius. There was also a woman, a very familiar woman, my Hattori. His guess was correct. The Hattori family had paid a heavy price in this assassination attempt, but they hadn't gained anything. My Hattori had risked her life to come to Kyoto. She couldn't have come to collect the bodies of the Hattori family's warriors, right? The waiter brought Charlotte to the stairs of the tower. He stopped and said, "Mr. Lee, you can go up." Xiao Lei nodded slightly, then stepped onto the stairs and climbed up to the gate tower. As soon as Charlotte appeared, my Hattori's eyes moved to Charlotte. She stared straight at Charlotte. Her eyes seemed to dig out all the secrets in Charlotte's heart. "Mr. Lee, you're a little late," Yang Shan said indifferently. Charlotte said indifferently, "I've already taken a big risk by coming here. You should be very clear that my mission isn't to work for you." Yang Shan didn't say anything. My Hattori extended her hand to Charlotte. "Mr. Lee, it's nice to meet you. I'm my Hattori. I know who you are." Charlotte shook her hand. "Tell me, why did you call me here? If you don't have a suitable reason, I will report your rash actions to the CIB headquarters." "Of course there's something, and it's something very important." My Hattori clapped her hands. A Hattori family warrior suddenly came in front of Charlotte with a brocade box. Chapter 1002. Charlotte was not worried at all that his identity as Eugene Lee would be seen through by my Hattori, because my Hattori's ability in this regard couldn't be better than Yang Shan and Sibelius. Yang Shan and Sibelius were professional spies. Their identities alone could explain the problem. But he was worried about the thing in the brocade box. As his mind flashed, his left eye moved slightly, and then he saw the thing in the brocade box. There was a bottle of liquid in the brocade box. The bottle was transparent, and the liquid inside was also transparent. He could see the bottle and the liquid inside the bottle, but he couldn't see what kind of liquid it was. What does she want to do? Does she want to give me poison and let me assassinate myself? Charlotte thought secretly in his heart, but he took the brocade box calmly and said, "What is it?" My Hattori said, "It's poison. It's called Grim Reaper. It's the strongest poison in the world today. It can be volatilized at room temperature. People will die within 5 minutes after coming into contact with it. Even if they lie in the emergency room of the hospital and receive Grim Reaper will take them away. There's no way to save them. It really was poison, and it was a poison that could spread in the air and kill people. This poison didn't work well in an open environment because the wind would blow it away and dilute it. But if it was in the office, this poison would be impossible to guard against." Charlotte sneered. "Your action failed, and now you want me to assassinate Charlotte. Let's not talk about whether I want to or not. With the characteristic of your poison that can kill people in 5 minutes, I have no chance to escape from Rema Group. Also, this poison of yours can spread through the air, and I was poisoned myself when I poisoned it. What I want to say is, do you think I'm a fool?" "Mr. Lee, please don't misunderstand." My Hattori said, "Of course, I have the antidote for you. And this is not my and Mr. Yang's idea. This is Mr. Williams's idea." "How is that possible?" Charlotte pretended to reject the idea. Yang Shan took out a satellite phone and dialed a number. Then, he handed the satellite phone to Charlotte. "Answer the phone." Charlotte answered the phone, and Williams' voice came through the phone. "Lee, it's Williams. Mr. Williams." Charlotte went straight to the point. "Is this all true?" Williams' voice said, "It's true. This is a new plan, Code S. You are the most important part of this plan, and only you have the chance to kill Charlotte now. But it wasn't easy for me. I know what you want to say, and I completely understand what you're thinking. But this is the common wish of the White House and the Pentagon. In addition, if you do well enough, you won't be discovered. Even if Charlotte dies, China will not stop the production of the new material. At that time, you may even become the person in charge of that project. We have analyzed that after Charlotte dies, the probability of you stealing the formula and production technology of secret Goldex will reach 95%. So, carry out the mission, Williams said. "Yes," Charlotte said, "but," Williams said, "I know what you want. What I want to tell you is that the fund for this operation came from Lockheed Martin Corporation, Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, and General Dynamics. They have provided you with a reward of $100 million and will give you 1/10 of it in advance. After completing this mission, you can enjoy your life to the fullest." Charlotte pretended to be excited. Mr. Williams, please rest assured that I will complete the mission, but I want them to pay 50% in advance. Williams was silent for a moment. No problem, it's decided. Goodbye, Mr. Williams. Charlotte handed the satellite phone back to Yang Shan. After talking to Williams, Charlotte had a comprehensive understanding of the whole matter. Not only did my Hattori appear here to represent the interests of the Japanese Kohattori family, but she also had another identity, and that was the representative of the interests of Lockheed Martin. What surprised him was that the alliance of 4 major arms dealers had now become 5. The new addition, Northrop Grumman, was the largest ship company in the United States, specializing in the production of warships and related weapons and defense systems for the United States. It ranked 3rd among the 5 major arms companies in the United States. Rema Group had no plans to enter the Sea World. Even if they did, it would probably be a long time in the future. Therefore, Rema Group would not threaten the interests of Northrop Grumman at all, but it still joined the camp led by Lockheed Martin Corporation. They wanted to kill him and destroy Rema Group. In the eyes of the 5 major arms companies, he had reached the point where he had to be killed. As long as he was alive, Rema Group would continue to emerge with new weapons. Not only would the market be occupied by Rema Group, but China's national defense would also become stronger. Therefore, they hoped that the new material in drones would be the last thing he developed, and there would be no more after that. From the perspective of the White House and the Pentagon, he had also reached the point where he had to be killed. This was because the threat posed by the new material to the United States was extremely huge. Once China had Mystic Gold X that could absorb 100% of radar electromagnetic waves, the United States would lose its air combat advantage. Rema Group was currently only involved in the field of drones, and this threat could still be controlled. However, once Rema Group used this new material on fighter jets and strategic bombers, the United States would not only lose its air combat advantage, but it would also be in a disadvantageous position. Therefore, the owner of the White House and the Pentagon's wishes were the same as the 5 major arms companies. That was, his research could only be stopped here and could not continue any further. Therefore, they activated the top spy Eugene Lee, who had worked hard to infiltrate Rema Group, and formulated the so-called S-Plan. After understanding this, Charlotte sneered in his heart. You don't want Rema Group to produce Mystic Gold X and drones, and you don't want Rema Group to produce fighter jets and bombers, but I want to do it. If you want me to die, I'll die for you to see. The 5 major arms companies have offered a bounty of $100 million for me to kill myself. It would be a waste not to take this money that was delivered to my doorstep. Mr. Lee, my Hattori said, do you understand now? Charlotte nodded. Since this is Mr. Williams' order, I will carry it out. Give me the antidote. My Hattori took out a small medicine bottle from her pocket. She shook the bottle gently, and the sound of capsules colliding could be heard. Charlotte's left, I moved slightly and saw the pills in the bottle. There were 3 white capsules. He said, it's not poison, right? Get rid of me when I'm done with the mission. My Hattori said with a smile, Mr. Lee, please don't make such a joke. You are currently the most important person in the CIA. The 5 major arms companies, the White House, and the Pentagon are all counting on you to steal the formula and production technology of Rema Group's Mystic Gold X, as well as their drone technology. You are so important that they can't protect you in time. Who would kill you? Charlotte said, give it to me. My Hattori handed the bottle to Charlotte and said, these 2 medicines can't be mixed together, which is why I didn't put them in the box. Before you do it, you need to take the antidote an hour before. Take another pill an hour after the poison is administered, and the last pill is to be taken 8 hours later. My Hattori said, don't worry. This medicine was developed by the AE Research Center and has been tested in Africa. The people who were poisoned died, but the person who poisoned them had no health problems. Then I'm relieved. Charlotte put away the medicine. Is there anything else? If not, I'll go back. Rema Group has entered the final preparation stage of building a new material workshop. I have to work in Rema Group, otherwise it will arouse Charlotte's suspicion. Of course, I have a question, my Hattori said. What question? Charlotte asked. My Hattori said, I want to know your plan. Charlotte said, I just learned about this, and you want to know my plan in a minute or two? Do you think I'm a god? Mai Hattori didn't mind Charlotte's tone at all. She smiled and said, I have a plan. You can take a look. What's your plan? Charlotte looked at her. Mai Hattori said, find a way to enter Peace residence, poison him in his home, and finally when he is with his women. You know, men are the least vigilant in front of beautiful women. Not to mention he has several women. You want me to kill his women as well? Charlotte said. Mai Hattori nodded and said, this isn't a personal grudge. This is the easiest opportunity for you to succeed. Not a personal grudge? Charlotte stole the Hattori family's artificial intelligence technology and used it on the ZZ-100 main battle tank and the scavenger IFV. He also killed Hattori Yukihito and Hattori Michinoku. If it wasn't a personal grudge, then there would be no hatred in the world. Charlotte nodded and smiled. I'll think about it. With that, he turned around and left. Walking out of the tower, Charlotte looked back at the wooden structure of the tower. He saw Mai Hattori talking to Yangshan in English. Can he be trusted? Mai Hattori asked. I can. Yangshan said. There's no doubt about his ability. He was trained by the CIA's Peerless Plan. I'm not very clear about the plan, but what I know is that the people trained by the training plan only carry out the most difficult missions, and the success rate is extremely high. Peerless Samurai. Mai Hattori's lips curled into a disdainful smile. But he looks very ordinary. Yangshan said, you can't measure him by the standards of a combat agent or an assassin. The missions he carries out are different in nature. Maybe, Mai Hattori said, he's hiding his strength. He has a very special temperament. No matter what level of spy he is, once he gets the material formula and production process of Rema Group's secret Gold X, he has to. Yangshan nodded. Charlotte retracted his gaze and strode away. If it wasn't for the conversation between Mai Hattori and Yangshan, he wouldn't have known that Eugene Lee was a high-level spy trained by the Peerless Plan. This kind of information seemed meaningless, but it wasn't the case. The Peerless Plan wouldn't only train a spy like Eugene Lee. There must be others. Right now, Eugene Lee was given the mission to assassinate him. It was hard to guarantee that the CIB wouldn't send another Peerless Samurai to infiltrate the Rema Group to replace Eugene Lee. After all, Eugene Lee was likely to die due to the failure of the mission. And the probability of this happening was actually very high because the Rema Group needed to recruit a lot of employees. This time, I can't be careless with the recruitment. Since you have an S plan, I will add AB to your S plan. Xia Lei's lips curled into a cold smile. Chapter 1003. The spring festival had passed, but it would come back. Time had passed, but it would never come back. What people could never stay was time. The sun rose, and the sky was dyed red. Standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in his office, Charlotte looked at the rising sun in the eastern sky. He could feel its vitality. But even so, there would come a day when it would be extinguished and collapsed. What was eternal in the universe? He retracted his gaze. A church stood under the sky, imitating the style of the Catalan Holy Family Church. It looked very majestic. At the door of the church, Long Bing was talking to the women of the Gray and Russo families. Beside the 5 women stood a large group of believers from all over the world. An armed force belonging to the Rema Group was forming. In the courtyard of Ping and residence, the pregnant Jiang Rui was knitting a sweater for the child. She was not a woman like Long Bing and Liang Xiao, who could accompany him to the battlefield to kill enemies. She was also not a powerful woman like Fan Fan. She was just a very ordinary woman. But it was her ordinariness that made him feel real, kind, and cute. She was like a mirror with a time attribute, allowing him to see his past and making him cherish everything he had now. A long line of military-heavy trucks drove out of the Rema Group's gate. Each truck was carrying a ZZ-100 main battle tank or a scavenger infantry fighting vehicle. After these 2 types of heavy equipment entered mass production, the military also began to replace the equipment of the tanks. In the near future, no country would dare to fight a land war with China, including the United States. All of this was like the rising sun, full of vigor and vitality. The sound of footsteps came from behind him, soft and almost inaudible. It came from the direction of the door, deliberately hiding itself and approaching him. But he didn't need to look back to know that it was Liang Xiao. Liang Xiao came from behind, reached out to cover Charlotte's eyes, and said playfully, "Guess who I am?" "You're a pig," Charlotte said with a smile. Liang Xiao hit him. "You're so mean. You're calling me a pig now that you're pregnant. You're so heartless." Charlotte turned around and hugged her. "You've always been a pig." Liang Xiao winked at him. She had always been a pig in the Zodiac Squad. Charlotte was right about this. However, this pig had lost all meaning because she could not participate in any of the Zodiac battle team's operations. Those who went to Europe to buy came back. What do they say? Charlotte shifted the topic to business. Liang Xiao sighed. "I just read their report and—" She paused for a moment and said, "The European equipment suppliers won't sell us the equipment, even if we offer them twice the market price." Charlotte said, "There must be some interference from the Americans. They know that I'm going to produce X mystical gold and drones, so they won't let us import the equipment from Europe." Liang Xiao said, "There is no problem with Russia and Ukraine, but their equipment is not much more advanced than our domestic equipment. I think it's better to choose our own domestic suppliers. You can actually draw up the blueprints of the equipment and the relevant standards. We'll order from suppliers all over the country and let them produce the parts. Then we'll bring the parts back and we'll refine them. Then we'll get the equipment we want." Charlotte thought for a moment. Although it's a bit troublesome, it's a solution when there's no other choice. "Give me 3 days, and I'll draw up the blueprints." 3 days? So fast. That's a very complicated thing. How can you do it? Liang Xiao looked surprised. "Trust me, it's not a problem." Charlotte was very confident. "Hubby, don't be too tired. It's okay to take it slow. No one is rushing you. Don't worry." Liang Xiao's eyes were full of concern. 3 days to draw all the blueprints of the equipment in a workshop. Even a super brain couldn't complete it. Because even if his head was filled with all the blueprints and data, his hands couldn't reach that speed. Not to mention drawing on paper, even drawing on a computer was impossible. This was Liang Xiao's opinion. However, Charlotte had his own way to solve this problem. "Don't worry about me. I know what I'm doing. But 3 days. The material workshop needs so much equipment. I can't believe you can finish it in 3 days." Liang Xiao stared at her man, as if she was testing whether her man was joking with her. Charlotte smiled and said, "Not just the material workshop, but also the workshop for the drone production. All the equipment, all the blueprints. 3 days. 3 days later, I'll give them all to you. Take them and select suitable equipment suppliers across the country and let them produce the parts for us. We have the Thunder Dragon Intelligent Machine Tool. We can turn them into the best parts." Liang Xiao rolled her eyes at Charlotte. "Hubby, can't you tell me all at once? Why do you have to keep me in suspense? Tell me, what are you going to do?" Charlotte just pointed at the hacker's computer on the desk. Liang Xiao was stunned for a moment. However, she was a smart woman. She quickly understood. A bad woman's smile appeared on her face. "So you're not talking about drawing, but stealing." Charlotte smiled and said, "What's stealing? It sounds so bad. It's copying." Yes, it's copying. I said it wrong. Hubby, I'll go make you a cup of tea and then bring a stool to see if you can copy it. Okay?" Liang Xiao came to please her man again. Charlotte smiled. "Okay, no problem." Liang Xiao went to make tea for Charlotte, while Charlotte turned on his hacker's computer and began to prepare for his copying work. The Americans could send Eugene Lee to steal Rema Group secrets, and he could use the same method to return the favor. However, this time, the scope of his attack was not limited to the United States, but the United States and Europe. It was very difficult to use hacking methods to attack places like the CIA and Lockheed Martin Corporation. There was no chance that he wouldn't be discovered. However, attacking some specific equipment suppliers and material manufacturers was as easy as going to the supermarket for him. Espionage incidents happened every minute and second in this world. Such things couldn't be measured from the perspective of justice and law, but they had existed since the birth of human civilization and still existed. Who could criticize such an existence from the perspective of law and justice? When Liang Xiao brought a cup of Thai guanyin to the desk, Charlotte had already started working. In just 5 minutes, he entered the file system of an equipment supplier in France, and then searched for the graphic files of several kinds of equipment he needed. After finding them, he copied them. It was that simple. When can I be as good as you? Liang Xiao was very envious of Charlotte's ability in the field of hacking. Charlotte said, "I'm afraid you can't, but your son can definitely do it. In the future, you can train him into a very good hacker. Wouldn't that satisfy your wish? My father will beat me to death. He has already made plans for his child to learn Wing Chun Kung Fu. I'm really worried that if I have a daughter, will he be angry to death?" Liang Xiao said. Charlotte looked at her big belly and said with a smile, "Don't worry, it's a son." Liang Xiao leaned her head on Charlotte's shoulder and said with a happy expression, "Well, I believe you. I believe everything you say." Charlotte not only knew that Liang Xiao was pregnant with a son, but he also knew whether the other 3 women were pregnant with a boy or a girl. After all, he only needed to use his X-ray vision to see it. In the past, he didn't dare to use X-ray vision on his 4 wives' bellies. That was because the child was very fragile, and he was afraid that his X-ray vision would hurt the child. This worry slowly disappeared as the child grew up, but he didn't dare to do it often. He only used X-ray vision once to see whether they were pregnant with a boy or a girl. For pregnant women, Liang Xiao was pregnant with a boy, Long Bing was pregnant with a boy, and Zhang Rui and Fan Fan were pregnant with a girl. 2 boys and 2 girls, 2 pairs of dragons and phoenixes. Long Bing and Liang Xiao could be compared to martial, while Fan Fan and Zhang Rui could be compared to literary. Martial gave birth to a child, and literary gave birth to a daughter. It was a perfect result. While talking with Liang Xiao about the child, Charlotte modified the copied graphic materials. He attacked the French equipment supplier, which was equivalent to getting a pile of raw materials, and many of them didn't meet his requirements. However, after his modification, it was like the finishing touch, and it was perfect. It only took a few minutes to attack and steal, but the modification was very slow. He couldn't finish a few blueprints even after an hour. But once it was completed, they would undoubtedly become the best of the same kind. Liang Xiao was excited at first, but after an hour, she lost patience and interest. "Honey, I'll go to the workshop to have a look. You also have to pay attention to rest, and don't be too tired." Charlotte stopped her. "Xiao, I have something to tell you." "What is it?" Liang Xiao looked at Charlotte curiously. Charlotte was silent for a moment before saying, "Help me prepare a funeral." "Huh?" Liang Xiao was stunned. "You heard me right." Charlotte looked serious. "Help me prepare a funeral. It doesn't need the grandest kind, as long as it's lively." Liang Xiao suddenly hit Charlotte's head with her fist, and a layer of mist appeared in her eyes. "What nonsense are you talking about? I don't want to hear this, and I won't allow you to talk nonsense. If you leave, what will happen to our children? What about Fan Fan, Frosty, and Rui? What about their children?" "Idiot, let me finish what I have to say." Charlotte took her hand, pulled her onto his lap, and then whispered in her ear, "It's like this." There were tears in Liang Xiao's eyes, but as Charlotte told her the truth, the tears in her eyes disappeared. The CIB and the 5 major arms companies jointly formulated Plan S, which was executed by Eugene Lee. The ultimate goal of this plan was to assassinate Charlotte. It was difficult to refuse the other party's hospitality, so how could Charlotte not cooperate with them? "Why should I cooperate with them?" After listening to Charlotte's words, Liang Xiao was puzzled. "You can completely ignore them, and you can even directly destroy the CIB intelligence station in the capital." Charlotte said, "After destroying the CIB intelligence station in the capital, they will build another one. I will cooperate with them and die once for them to see. If I die, they will let down their guard. And then, what do you want to do? We'll talk about it when the time comes." Charlotte said. In fact, he already had a complete plan in his heart, but he didn't want to say it because Liang Xiao and the others would be worried. Then when do you plan to? Liang Xiao couldn't say the word die. Charlotte said, in a week, when I have arranged everything. I can't. Liang Xiao suddenly covered Charlotte's mouth. I won't allow you to say that word. Charlotte smiled, and his heart warmed. Chapter 1004. 3 days later, several printers were working nonstop, printing out drawings one after another. Several piles of drawings had been piled up on Charlotte's desk, each of which was more than a foot thick. These were the drawings that Charlotte had copied and modified from Europe and the United States. Some were drawings of materials and equipment, and some were drawings of equipment for the production of drones. After being modified by Charlotte's superbrain, they were more advanced and perfect. These drawings and related information had been classified and cut. Most of them were drawings of individual parts and related parameter descriptions, as well as the requirements for manufacturing materials. Charlotte had done his job to the extreme. All that was left was to send the drawings to the equipment manufacturers in China and negotiate the order. The rest would be done by Liang Xiao and the staff of Rema Group. After printing out the last drawing, Charlotte went into the lounge. When he came out again, he had changed into Eugene Lee. Liang Xiao, who had just come to get the drawings, saw Eugene Lee. She was slightly stunned and then reacted. Honey, are you sure you want to do this? Charlotte said, of course, this plan is very important to me. Do as I say. But you didn't tell me where you're going to hide for a while, and how long will this period of time be? Liang Xiao looked very worried. Charlotte said, about half a month, maybe 20 days, but no more than a month. Liang Xiao frowned. Is it half a month, 20 days, or a month? Also, don't change the subject. Where are you going? Haizhu, Charlotte said. I want to go back to my hometown. I am familiar with that place. I will disguise myself as someone else, and the CIA will not find me. But you have to pretend that you don't know anything, and you can't come to Haizhu to find me. Really? Charlotte nodded. But he knew very well that this was a white lie. The place he wanted to go was dangerous, and he didn't want Liang Xiao and Long Bing to worry. Okay, call Masato over. He is ready, Charlotte said. A few minutes later, Ryu Youngnam arrived at Charlotte's office. He was wearing the human skin mask that Charlotte had made for him. He looked exactly like Charlotte. Sit on my chair. I'll fix it for you, said Charlotte. Ryu Youngnam sat on the chair in front of the desk. Brother, how long do I have to pretend to be a corpse? About 10 days to half a month. Charlotte used the makeup tools to draw Ryu Youngnam's face towards the corpse. Brother, 10 days to half a month? Ryu Youngnam cried with Charlotte's face. Can you change someone else to play the corpse? Don't move. You played me several times. You're the best. No one else can do this job. I'm your brother-in-law. If you mutter again, I'll let Xia Shui beat you up. Charlotte looked fierce. Don't. I'll do it, okay? Ryu Youngnam gave in. Xia Shui was his Achilles heel. A little bit, and he would be finished. After putting the makeup on Ryu Youngnam, Charlotte left the office. Husband? In Charlotte's office came Liang Xiao's crying voice. Liang Xiao's crying voice alerted the staff in the office building. They wanted to enter Charlotte's office, but they were stopped by Erdemo. They could only look at Charlotte, who was lying on the office chair, from a distance. Charlotte's face was purple, and his 7 orifices were bleeding. There were a lot of bubbles on the corners of his mouth. It seemed that he was dead. What's going on? How is this possible? Woo. Chairman Xia. Woo. Chairman Xia, get up. Get up. You said that you would lead us to defeat Lockheed Martin Corporation. How could you leave us behind? Chairman Xia. There were wails and cries in the office building. Charlotte was the national hero of this nation. There was nothing to say about his treatment of his employees. His bonuses and benefits were the highest in the country. The love and admiration of the employees of Rema Group for him were real and not feigned. Charlotte's other 3 women also arrived. Erdemo only let the 3 of them in, and then he sealed the door and didn't let anyone in. The 4 women surrounded Xiaolei, each one more sorrowful than the last. Honey, why did you leave? If you leave, what about me and the child in my belly? Fanfan's voice was hurt. Sob, sob, sob. Sob, sob, sob. Hubby, wake up, wake up. Sob, 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 sob. Get up. I won't let you die. Who did this? I'm going to kill them. Woo woo. Long Bing Bing's voice was heard. Honey, honey, you were fine just now. Why did you leave in a blink of an eye? Woo woo. Liang Xiao's voice was heard. The four women had different personalities and different crying styles. It seemed that they were affected by the four women, and more people began to cry. For a moment, the Rema group was shrouded in a gloomy and sorrowful atmosphere. More than 10 minutes later, 2 helicopters flew to an open space in the Rema group. Tang Yuyin and Sher Boren jumped out of one of the helicopters and ran to the Rema group's headquarters. Tang Yuyin ran at the front, crying as she ran. You bastard, you bastard. How could you die? You made me fall in love with you, but you left me alone in this world. You bastard. When love reached the extreme, it was hatred. Sher Boren's expression was solemn. Charlotte's death was not that simple. He didn't need to think or evidence to guess that it was the Americans who did it. What worried him more was how far the Rema group could fly without Charlotte. In the face of such a loss, what kind of reaction would China have? He was thinking about these questions, and each of them was a national matter. Behind Sher Boren, the medical staff from Innings 101 followed closely from the other helicopter. Some of them were carrying first aid kits, and some were carrying first aid stretchers. All of you, get out of my way. Tang Yuyin shouted at the Rema Group employees who were crowded in the corridor when she rushed to the top floor. Then, without waiting for those people to get out of the way, she forcibly knocked away the people who were blocking her way and bumped her way to the door of Charlotte's office like a bowling ball. Stop! Erdema reached out and blocked Tang Yuyin's way. What are you doing? Get out of my way. Tang Yuyin's emotions were already out of control. You can't go in. Erdema wasn't angry. Tang Yuyin pulled out a Viper pistol and pointed the muzzle at Erdema's head. Get out of my way. Erdema didn't move. You can't go in. Who dares to block my way? Arrest him. Sher Boren rushed over, his face full of anger. At this time, Fan Fan finally left Charlotte's side and went behind Erdema. He is carrying out my orders. She didn't know why, but after hearing her say that, Tang Yuyin wanted to shoot her. Bureau Chief Fan Fan, do you know what you were doing? Sher Boren shouted at Fan Fan. This was a serious matter, and he couldn't control his emotions. Fan Fan wiped away her tears. My husband is dead. I don't want you to disturb him. It is because he is dead that we are here to investigate. We want to avenge Charlotte. Also, without the doctor's confirmation, what if he still has a chance of survival? Get out of my way. Sher Boren's tone was pleading. What he said was reasonable and reasonable. However, Fan Fan didn't appreciate it all. She said, the doctor from Rema Group has already checked and confirmed that there is no doubt. In addition, I have already reported to the higher-ups. Soon, there will be a special task force here. 101 Innings has no right to participate in this matter. You. Tang Yuyin was so angry that tears flowed down her face. Her beloved had left this world, and he was just a few meters away, but she was even blocked from seeing him for the last time. Her heart felt as if it was being cut by a knife. Tang Yuyin put away the gun. Fan Fan was angry. Let me tell you, this is not my intention. It is the higher-ups' intention. If you want to force your way in, you will bear the consequences. Tang Yuyin suddenly reached out and pushed Erdema. Before Erdema could react, Sher Boren grabbed her hand. Yuyin, don't be impulsive. Since it is the higher-ups' intention, then we will watch outside and wait for instructions. Tang Yuyin gritted her teeth. Her heart was bleeding. She couldn't wait to kick Erdemu and Fan Fan in front of her, and then rush to Charlotte's side, hold him in her arms, and send him off. However, just after this impulse appeared in her heart, the appearance of Tang Yunhai and Tang Tianlong suddenly flashed in her mind, as well as the Tang family, and the impulse in her heart calmed down. This was the decision of the higher-ups. Even 101 Innings had no right to investigate this matter. If she forced her way in, would her position as the director of 101 Innings still be hers? She had told Charlotte that she might leave the Tang sect. It was easy to say, but it was really difficult to do it. Boren was worried that Tang Yuyin would lose control again. He pulled Tang Yuyin to the window and whispered in her ear, "Do you still remember that Forsen exploded on the bow AO tire? Charlotte is a human who has evolved ahead of time. His body is a treasure, and even his corpse has an inestimable value. The higher-ups will definitely take his body away for research. You can't resist it all." Whoa. Tang Yuyin threw herself on Boren's shoulder and buried her head in pain. "Godfather, how could he die? Woo-woo. I love him so much. I can't live without him. Woo-woo." Boren wanted to comfort her, but he didn't know how. All the words seemed to be useless in this matter. Not long after, in less than 10 minutes, another heavy-duty helicopter flew over. More than a dozen people from unknown departments got off the helicopter. They were all wearing dark suits and sunglasses, and they looked very cold. They showed a piece of paper to Fan Fan, and then took away Charlotte's body. Fan Fan followed them. Liang Xiao, Long Bing, and Jiang Rui were still crying in the office, looking heartbroken. On the heavy helicopter, Charlotte's body suddenly opened half of his eyes. "Sister-in-law, where are we going?" "Funeral home. You have to continue acting." Fan Fan said, "Next time, take some sleeping pills." Ryu Yoongnam. Chapter 1005. A silver Rolls-Royce Phantom rushed into the headquarters of Rema Group, and the guards at the door didn't even stop it. The Rolls-Royce Phantom came to an emergency stop in front of the headquarters. Before the car came to a complete stop, Shinta Tianyin jumped out of the car. She almost fell to the ground, but before she could steady herself, she stumbled to the stairwell. His ex-wife had also come to see her husband off, but she didn't even get to see Charlotte for the last time. "Xia, where's Charlotte?" Rushing into Charlotte's office, Shinta Tianyin saw the three women in the office, Long Bing, Liang Xiao, and Jiang Rui. There were tears in the corners of her eyes, as if they would flow in the next second. Liang Xiao wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. "You're too late. His body has been taken away." Shinta Tianyin's tears came out of her eyes. "Is he dead?" Long Bing nodded. "No," Shinta Tianyin suddenly roared. "This is impossible. It's impossible. You're lying to me. You must be lying to me. Charlotte won't die. He won't die." Tang Yuyin walked in from the door and choked with sobs. "Tianyin, he is indeed dead. His body has been taken away." Shinta Tianyin suddenly screamed, then closed her eyes and fell to the ground. Tang Yuyin reached out and hugged Shinta Tianyin. 5 women, 2 camps. At this moment, there was a clear distinction. Liang Xiao and Long Bing couldn't help but look at each other helplessly. Charlotte wasn't dead. This was a secret that they knew. But Tang Yuyin and Shinta Tianyin didn't know. They were heartbroken, and their feelings for Charlotte were so strong. How would they react once they knew it was a scam? "Yuyin, shall we call her?" Long Bing said. Tang Yuyin said, "She's Charlotte's ex-wife. She came to see her ex-husband off. What's wrong with that?" Long Bing still wanted to say something, but Liang Xiao suddenly hugged her and cried, "Bing, I don't want to live anymore. I want to accompany him." Long Bing suddenly realized something and shut her mouth. At the same time, a Buick Enclave was running on the suburban road. Do. Boss, we're already at the target's location, but the target hasn't appeared yet." After the call was connected, Ngumi Khan's voice came from the satellite phone. "They will appear," Charlotte said in a deep voice. "Remember, do not shoot any targets. If they want to kill me, then you can do it." "Got it." Ngumi Khan's voice was heard. He said with a smile, "But I hope they want to kill you to silence you. They won't. I'm still of value to them. If nothing unexpected happens, they won't do it." In a call, Charlotte hung up the phone. He was in Sima Hattori, Yangshan, and Sibelius. The meeting place was still on the tower of the Great Wall of Mushianyu. Before he set off, Ngumi Khan, Akiko Tsukino, Yelena, and Simo had already set up an ambush on the mountain 1 kilometer away. For people, for XL 2500 sniper rifles for sniper points. Once Yangshan or my Hattori had the idea to kill him to silence him, Then Angumi Khan and the others would open fire to gain the initiative. Although he judged that the possibility of that happening was less than 10%, even if it was only 1%, he must eliminate it. Perhaps he would die one day, but that would be at least 2 years later. He absolutely cannot die now. For the sake of Rema Group, for the sake of Liang Xiao's unborn child, he must not die. Half an hour later, when the Buick Enclave approached the Great Wall of Muxianyu, Angumi Khan called him again. "Boss, they have appeared." "Got it." After ending the call, Charlotte put away the satellite phone and then entered the scenic area. There were only a few tourists at the Great Wall after the New Year. Unlike last time, he didn't need to concentrate to grasp the surrounding environment. Now, he could see the people he wanted to see with his telescopic vision. Hattori, Yangshan, Sibelius, and several samurai from the Hattori family. They were all field agents of the CIA's intelligence station in Kyoto. When he approached the gate tower, Charlotte used his X-ray vision. These people were all armed. If they want to kill me, I will kill them and destroy the CIA's intelligence station in Kyoto. Then, I will wake up Xiao Qian and steal as much information as I can. Charlotte had already made up his mind. However, he didn't want things to develop in that direction. In his plan, my Hattori, Yangshan, and Sibelius all had to die, but when to kill these people was very important. If he killed these people now, his plan would be ruined. "Mr. Li, you are very punctual today. Please follow me," the field agent who worked as a waiter at Leave Cafe said politely. Charlotte nodded slightly and then followed him to the gate tower. "Mr. Li, did you succeed?" As soon as Charlotte showed up, Yangshan couldn't wait to ask. Charlotte nodded again. "Thanks to the poison you provided, he probably didn't know what was going on until he died." "Where's his body?" My Hattori also asked anxiously. Charlotte said, "When I came, his body was taken away by the China government. He had secrets hidden on him, and his body has high scientific research value, which is normal. However, I think because of Charlotte's contribution to China and his position in the hearts of the Chinese, the China government will probably hold a decent funeral for him." "Ha ha ha." My Hattori suddenly laughed crazily. Charlotte just looked at her quietly. This Japanese woman reminded him of Gu Qian, and my Hattori's desire to kill him was as strong as Gu Qian's. "Are you sure?" Yangshan stared at Charlotte with suspicion and probing in his eyes. Charlotte imitated Eugene Lee and shrugged. "If you ask me to come here to confirm whether Charlotte is dead or not, I have already given you the answer." If you doubt that Charlotte is not dead, please go to Charlotte's morning hall and have a look. "Ha, no, Mr. Lee, don't get me wrong. I'm just asking casually." Yangshan said, "I will report to Mr. Williams, and you will get the rest of the payment you deserve." Charlotte secretly breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. In this case, the other party should not have a plan to kill him here. Yangshan took out a satellite phone and walked to the outside of the city tower to make a call. Charlotte was about to use his X-ray vision to talk to Williams when my Hattori suddenly walked in front of him and blocked his view. She moved her head to Charlotte's ear. Charlotte took a step back. "Miss Abdomen, what do you want to do?" My Hattori said with a smile, "You killed the person I wanted to kill even in my dreams. I want to kiss you to express my gratitude." Charlotte sneered. "I don't want a kiss from a poisonous snake." "Ha." My Hattori laughed very sweetly. "Mr. Lee, you are really good at joking." Charlotte stopped talking. The more he talked, the more flaws there would be. In front of these professional spies and secret agents, the wisest thing to do was to talk less. My Hattori lowered her voice. Her voice was almost inaudible. It could even be said that she was mouthing. "If you get the formula and production technology of the X-Mystic Gold, remember to tell me the good news." When she spoke, she stood at a very good angle. Other than Charlotte, no one else in the same environment could see her at all. Charlotte's lips curled into a smile. This was a hint that after he got the X-Mystic Gold, she could buy him with a lot of money. And his smile was a tacit response. Yangshan walked in and handed the satellite phone to Charlotte. "Mr. Williams is waiting for you online." Charlotte picked up the satellite phone. "Mr. Williams?" "Lee, well done." Williams was very excited. Charlotte just listened. "I want to know more about the situation." Williams quickly calmed down. Were you discovered? Charlotte was very clear that if he said he was discovered, the people here would attack him. He said calmly, I left very cleanly and didn't leave any traces. Even if 101 Innings investigates, the person they suspect is definitely not me. Can you continue to complete your mission? Williams asked. Charlotte said, Of course not. Charlotte is already dead. Rema Group's new material workshop is about to be built. I am the person in charge of this project. I am confident that I can get the formula and production technology of the X-Mystic Gold. That's good. Don't contact Yangshan in the future until you steal the formula and production technology of the X-Mystic Gold, Williams said. Charlotte said, Mr. Williams, I have already killed Charlotte. My bonus, no problem at all. Just wait for our final step to confirm Charlotte's death. Then you will receive the rest of the payment, Williams said. Charlotte thought of the patient and patient observer. The CIB intelligence station in Kyoto would send someone to investigate his death. That person was probably the first candidate. However, he was not worried at all that there would be any problems in this regard because the observer would not be able to come into contact with his corpse. Thinking of this problem, Charlotte frowned. Mr. Williams, this is different from our original agreement. I risk my life to get this bonus. If I can't get it, he did not finish his threat, but he believed that Williams must have understood. Williams said, Okay, it will be sent to your account within 24 hours. I think this time is enough for us to confirm the final step. Thank you. I have to rush back to Rema Group. I will hide for a period of time. During this time, I will not contact you, and I do not want anyone to contact me. After that, Charlotte hung up the phone and then handed the satellite phone back to Yangshan. Yangshan heard what he just said. Sibelius and my Hattori also heard it. He wanted to hide for a period of time. He did not want anyone to contact him. The anyone he was referring to was obviously these three people. My Hattori thought about it and blinked. Charlotte saw it, but he did not say anything. He turned around and left. This guy is really arrogant, Sibelius said with hatred. 100 million US dollars. He just earned 100 million US dollars. Yangshan said faintly, He has the life to make money, but not the life to spend it. My Hattori said, According to the current situation, he should be able to steal the formula and production technology of Rema Group's X-Mystic Gold. If you get it, let alone 100 million US dollars, even 200 million US dollars will be wanted. Yangshan and Sibelius could not help but look at each other. This was also a hint, and it was very obvious. Humans die for wealth, and birds die for food. How many people in this world could resist the temptation of hundreds of millions of US dollars? Charlotte walked out of the tower. He looked at the opposite mountain peak and said with his lips, Retreat, set off. Set off. His next stop was not Rema Group. Chapter 1006. 2 days later, in Jerusalem, a Jeep Wrangler drove out of the city of Jerusalem and headed east. There were 5 people in the car, and Charlotte was driving. Yelena, Engyumi Khan, Sayamu, and Akiko Tsukino were sitting in the car, enjoying the ride provided by Charlotte. Any one of the 4 members of the Zodiac team could drive, but they had no idea where Charlotte was going. Not to mention specific coordinates. They didn't even have a general direction. In such a situation, only Charlotte could drive himself. Charlotte was going to the pyramid-shaped tomb where the AE capsule had been excavated, but he didn't know the specific location. His only reference was the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. Boss, where are we going? Sayamo asked. I don't know, Charlotte said. He glanced back in the rearview mirror and saw that the Church of the Holy Sepulchre had been left far behind. There's not even a name? Sayama said. Charlotte shook his head. Akiko Tsukino said, Sayamu, don't ask. Boss will take us to where... Ha ha. Engumi Khan laughed. You monkey, stop laughing. Your laughter is so unpleasant, Akiko Tsukino said as she glared at Engumi Khan. The 5 people in the car were all unfamiliar faces, and each of them had a delicate human skin mask on their faces. This disguise was necessary. They had to avoid the eyes of the Israeli Mossad and the CIA's intelligence agents. After the car drove forward for a distance, a barren hill appeared in front of them, and the road around the hill was cut off. Next to the roadbed dug by the excavator stood a warning sign, written in Hebrew and English. Address disaster area ahead. Please make a detour. There's no other way. Siamu said, Boss, we have to find another way. Charlotte stopped the car and looked up at the mountain outside the window. He seemed to be thinking about something. The content of the video appeared in his mind. In the video, an archaeologist named George stood on a hillside and looked back at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. Boss! Siamu's voice rang out. Charlotte came back to his senses. He suddenly drove the Jeep Wrangler out of the road and headed towards the foot of the mountain. The rocks on the ground made the Jeep Wrangler shake, and Yelena accidentally hit her head. Fortunately, it only took a few minutes for the Jeep Wrangler to arrive at the foot of the mountain from the wasteland. Charlotte opened the door and got out of the car. He said, Let's get out. We have to go over this mountain. The 4 members of the Zodiac team got out of the car and took out their respective equipment bags from the trunk. Boss, where are we going? Akiko Tsukino could not help but ask. Charlotte first looked back in the direction of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, then pointed to the mountain in front of him and said, There is a pyramid in this mountain. That's where I'm going. Wow. Engumi Khan's voice was very exaggerated. A pyramid? And it's a pyramid in the middle of a mountain. Boss, I believe everything you said, except this one. Yelena and Siamu also had a look of disbelief. A pyramid was hidden in the belly of a mountain. Such a thing sounded very strange. Anyone with a normal mind would not believe it. Let's go. You'll know when we get there. Charlotte did not explain too much. He carried his equipment bag and climbed up the mountain. The 4 members of the Zodiac team followed behind Charlotte as they climbed up the mountain. What is the boss doing? Siamu said, China is holding a funeral for the boss. He came to this remote place to find some pyramid. I don't understand what he wants. Yeah, it's so strange, Engumi Khan said. Stop gossiping. Akiko Tsukino said, The boss must have his reasons for doing this. We just need to do what he says. Akiko, do you like the boss? Engumi Khan whispered. Clang. A samurai sword was unsheathed. Well, pretend I didn't say anything. Engumi Khan shrugged. Charlotte actually heard the discussion of his 4 subordinates, but his mind was not on these boring things. The content of the video kept appearing in his mind. In addition to comparing the terrain again to confirm the location, he was also thinking about some questions. One was that after his father Xia Changhe left the capital, the first place he appeared was Jerusalem. Did he also come to this place? Another question was the man with the king cobra tattoo on his arm. Who was he? The last question was the man with the king cobra tattoo on his arm. He was obviously the one who took the amber containing the AE capsule. But why did the AE capsule end up in the AE Research Center? He wanted to find the answer to these 3 questions. He also had some analysis, but he felt that something was wrong. An hour later, she climbed up the mountain with the 4 members of the Zodiac team. At the bottom of the mountain was a bare hillside. It was made up of rocks and gravel. There was not even a single blade of grass. At the bottom of the hillside was a small valley surrounded by mountains. There were some drought-resistant shrubs in the valley, but it looked very desolate. Charlotte looked back at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in the city of Jerusalem. This time, he was completely sure that the archaeologist named George had taken a video from this hilltop. The mysterious pyramid was also at the foot of the hill. Engumi Khan, stay here and set up a sniping point. If anything happens, contact us immediately, said Charlotte. Okay, no problem, said Engumi Khan. He actually wanted to go in and take a look, but this was Charlotte's arrangement. He had to obey. Charlotte pointed in the direction of the valley entrance. Yelena, you guard that place. If anything happens, contact me immediately. No problem, leave it to me. Yelena carried her equipment bag and walked in the direction of the valley entrance. Akiko, Siamu, you 2 come with me, said Charlotte. Akiko Tsukino and Siamu nodded, then followed Charlotte down the hillside. A sniper in Yelena, who was good at controlling the environment, guarded the outside. Akiko, Tsukino, and Sayamu, who were good at assassination and observation, followed him into the pyramid. This was a very wise arrangement. It took almost an hour to go up the hill, but it took less than 20 minutes to walk from the hillside to the foot of the hill. Charlotte quickly found the location of the entrance. In a video shot by George, the entrance was 3 meters high and 3 meters wide. Even an off-road vehicle could drive in. But now it had been sealed, and huge rocks were blocking the entrance. At the end of the video, the man with the king cobra tattoo on his arm gave the order to blow up the entrance. He really did it, and judging from the rocks piled up at the entrance, the group of people had set up a lot of explosives when they retreated. They almost tore down half of the hillside. If they wanted to go in, they would probably have to use large construction machinery, such as excavators and forklifts, and it would take several days. Charlotte used his X-ray vision to look inside the cave, but his left eye couldn't see through the huge rocks and into the interior of the mountain. His brow furrowed. He felt that he was oversimplifying the problem and was too impatient. "Boss, is it here?" Sayamu was very good at reading people's expressions. Charlotte nodded. "It's here, but we can't go in." Sayamu said, "I'm afraid we have to use construction machinery, but it's not far from Jerusalem. Mossad has a lot of spies here. If we do anything here, they're likely to find us." Akiko, Tsukino said, "Why don't we wait until night and blow it up with explosives?" Sayamu said, "No, the sound of the explosion is likely to reach Jerusalem, and the vibration may be discovered by the Seismological Bureau in Jerusalem. This is not a good idea." Akiko Tsukino spread her hands. "This won't work, and that won't work. What should we do?" While Akiko Tsukino and Sayamu were talking, Charlotte's eyes moved to a rock. There were lines carved on the rock with sharp chi. They seemed to be irregular, but if one looked carefully, there seemed to be Chinese characters hidden in the lines. Charlotte's left eye absorbed the seemingly messy lines, and his brain presented the pattern formed by the lines. Then he analyzed, filtered, pieced, and reorganized them in a 360-degree range without any blind spots. He quickly found a pattern. Some lines were carved with great force, while others were carved with great force. There was a clear sense of hierarchy between the two. Then, he eliminated the carvings with great force, leaving only the carvings with less force. 2 Chinese characters immediately appeared in his brain. Zwabai. The handwriting was a little familiar. Zwabai. Charlotte was confused. What does this mean? The 2 Chinese characters looked like a Chinese name, but if analyzed separately, it was a description of direction and distance. It was difficult to determine which one it was. Wait, Charlotte suddenly thought of something. This is Dad's handwriting. No wonder it's so familiar. The handwriting left by Dad couldn't be a name, but a direction and distance. He had been here, and he was using this method to tell him 100 meters to the left. In fact, many of us did this kind of thing when we were young. They used bricks or stones to write and draw on the walls of the school. After writing and drawing, they erased it with a clatter. But no matter how much we erased, the original drawing was still traceable because it was real, but it was covered up. What's 100 meters to the left? Charlotte looked to the left, but there was a corner less than 100 meters away, and he couldn't see the other side. Boss, we have to think of another way. Sayamu said, follow me. Charlotte walked to the left. Sayamu glanced at Akiko Tsukino and then shrugged helplessly. Akiko Tsukino simply gave him a supercilious look. She had never been nice to this pursuer from Iraq. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.